of American servicemen, and also Oscar Rivera, who is a convicted bomber. So, forgive me for not being too terribly upset when President Trump pardons someone like Roger Stone. He's a 70-year-old man, nonviolent, first time in federal prison. It's absurd.
And Amanda, on the lines of that being a nonviolent crime and the way they actually took him into custody and with media available and there ahead of time, but they said they just so happened to be there at the right time. It kind of seems silly, but on the nonviolence of it, we see in this nation repeat pedophiles, child killers, serial killers, and not just drug convictions, but repeat large drug dealers that don't even get taken into custody like this. In October, the New York courts passed the law to be able to reconvict friends and family granted clemency by any sitting president. Do you see this as convenience or necessity, since it just so happened to happen right before Roger Stone was actually convicted?
Yeah, isn't it amazing? All of those folks across America who said that they refused to work in concert with ICE, with immigrations and customs enforcements, in notifying them of the capture of an illegal alien. You have to wonder if Roger Stone was an illegal immigrant here to the United States, if they would pass up on that policy that they've adopted. What else was I going to say? Something else you said. Here in California. So you've got Gavin Newsom, who has released thousands of prisoners here, released them onto the streets of California and Los Angeles and Sacramento and all across California, violent offenders who were nearing the end of their prison term. So they decided to go ahead and release them because they were worried about a COVID outbreak. But someone like Roger Stone, who, by the way, is in that vulnerable age range, they want to throw him back in prison, or they want to throw him in prison. Gavin Newsom, who, by the way, has announced that there are probably going to be another 8,000 prisoners released in California. So, yay. I don't know about you, but I'd rather have 8,000 Roger Stones on the streets than the 8,000 prisoners that he's considering releasing.
I would have to agree with you on that, and I think the majority of people would too. Now, on the lines of this new legislation, it's never been used. Do you think that they will take it into court in New York, the New York attorneys, and do you think that they will be successful?
What new legislation are you talking about?
So in October, right before Roger Stone was convicted, they passed new legislation in New York that anybody who's a friend or a family who was granted clemency by a sitting president, if they wanted, they could go ahead and bring the case back into the courts. And I don't know if it's to retry them or it's basically to have a, case hearing to still keep their conviction in place.
Yeah, so for a lot of conservatives, I know they're going to try to make the argument that this is double jeopardy. However, in our court system, we have different court circuits. You have different levels as well. You have obviously your local court, which usually handles smaller cases. Then you have state and federal court systems with circuit and appellate courts all down the line. So when this falls into a different court's jurisdiction, then therefore they can re-prosecute. I think it's absurd, and I think this falls along the lines of, House Democrats continuing to try to impeach this president, harassment. And, I think that the legislation is erroneous and it's destructive to American society, because it might be Roger Stone that they're targeting today, but 5 years from now, maybe it'll be Nancy Pelosi.
And the hypocrisy, Amanda, because like you were saying, in California, they just released a bunch of prisoners due to COVID, yet they want to put an elderly man in prison, possibly to get COVID, and he's in a vulnerable population. It just makes no sense, and I don't know how they can explain it away. I guess my other question, though, would be, do you think that the president is going to run into this problem every single time he decides to pardon or commutate anybody from this point on until he's out of office?
I think that he will run into this problem if it's someone who Democrats and mainstream media can make the case that it's someone who is a friend of President Trump's. Now, like I reiterated at the top of the segment, this has been done by every president, and yes, quote unquote friends, aka multi-million-dollar donors to the Clinton Foundation. Same thing with Obama, same thing with George W. Bush. Pretty much since this has become an executive power, within the executive branch of government ever since this began. That has happened. But the difference is that you have Donald Trump in office and not a Democrat. So if President Trump is commuting or pardoning someone who has no political strings or ties to his campaign, they probably won't bat an eye at it. But it's, you know, it's the perception. It's all about the perception with the mainstream media. And anytime that they can spin something in their favor, they're going to.
And they do, definitely. And in regards to clemency and pardoning and commutations, do you think that this is something that will stay no matter who's in the president's presidency? In regards to, do you think it's something that people will call for it to just be kind of voided out and not given an authority to a president to be able to do this anymore? Or do you think it's just President Trump?
No, I think this is a presidential power that has staying power because Democrats, of course, have always utilized and exploited this power when they occupied the Oval Office. So I don't think that you'll see Democrats screeching for this to be limited or omitted, but it's an interesting argument. But, you know, this is the executive branch, and the executive branch enjoys certain responsibilities and liberties, and that's one of them. But it usually happens on the day out the door. You know, the vast majority of those for Obama and Clinton were done on their last day of office. So it would be funny to see on President Trump's last day in end of 2024, beginning of 2025, if he just made a blanket swooping document that, you know, offered clemency or pardon to thousands of people. Their heads would explode.
And I guess the supporters of the president, I think they were surprised because he didn't wait. Why do you think he didn't wait until at least after the election?
I think it was, you know, a peace sign minus one finger to them.
I think you're right. Nice, short and concise there, Amanda. Thank you so much. And I know we'll be discussing in a little bit, so stay right there. But remember, you can watch America's Voice News on Dish Channel 219. We're now on Pluto TV Channel 247, on your phone, other devices, Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and on our America's Voice app. So download that if you haven't yet. And remember, you can also be part of the conversation. Just head over to our website, americasvoice.news, sign up, and become part of the community where you'll receive all the latest updates. And all you have to do is log on to americasvoice.news. And stay right there, because when we come up, I have a special guest and we'll be discussing plenty more here, and it's all coming up after the break. Stay where you are.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. Micro Touch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go solo. Call 1-800-709-9777 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new MicroTouch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.
Jim and Joanne are here to pick up the same prescription. They both know the system is not on their side. They both know drug costs are out of control. But one of them is taking back control with GoodRx.
Next.
So while he's paying that much, even with his insurance, she's paying this much just by using GoodRx. Use GoodRx to compare prices at pharmacies in your area and stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today and take back control.
I see what's possible instead of what's here. Others see cracked concrete, broken backboards, run-down courts. I see a way to bring pride back to communities. Art can change it all. Bright colors, a bold vision, and it can be somewhere that brings people together for games or hangouts or whatever. A place that makes people proud, like this is my neighborhood. That's why I made Project Backboard and a site with GoDaddy. How will you make your mark? Make the world you want.
Welcome back to America's Voice Live. I'm Jessica Rivera, and we're getting word that the president has just stepped onto the podium, so we're going to take you over to what he is talking about.
And they're being very unfairly treated over the last long period of time, but over the last few years, it's terrible what's happening. We're also joined by 2 amazing officers, South Carolina Deputy Sheriff William Kimbrough. Where's William? William? What happened to William? Okay. Oh, okay. That's a good excuse. That's good. And Palm Beach County Deputy Sheriff Corey Reese. Hi, Corey. Good. In recent weeks, our country's police officers have been really under siege. I want to thank first of all, I do want to thank Vice President Pence for all the work he's done on this, and in particular, Attorney General Bill Barr, because the job he's done has been amazing. It's been 24 hours a day. I guess I could say 28 hours a day, right? It never ends, but it's been a great job that you've both done. We appreciate it. Mike, we appreciate it very much. But our officers have been under vicious assault, and hundreds of police have been injured and several murdered. You've been reading about it just like I've been seeing it. Reckless politicians have defamed our law enforcement heroes as the enemy. They call them the enemy. They actually go and say they're the enemy, and even call them an invading army. These radical politicians want to defund and abolish the police from our nation. At first, when I first heard it, I said, well, that's just something that they're saying that doesn't, but they actually are trying to do it. You look at what's going on in Minneapolis, you look at what's going on in many Democrat-run areas. But they want to defund and they want to abolish. Far-left mayors are escalating the anti-cop crusade, and violent crime is spiraling in their cities. It's all far-left cities where they have no understanding of what has to be done. They don't have a clue. And I will say that we put on a very powerful rule and law that you get 10 years, you knock down a monument. If it's a federal monument, you go to jail for 10 years. And if it's anything else, we tell them we work with the states to help them. But if you do anything where it's a federal monument, and there are a lot of them up there, and nobody's been attacked, nothing's been attacked since we did, 10 years in jail, monument or statue. In one recent week in New York City, this is hard to believe, shootings were up 358%, and yet they spend all their time, they want to do Black Lives Matter signs outside of Trump Tower. They ought to spend their time doing something else, because I'll tell you what, 358% increase in shootings in New York. Last month, over 300 people were shot. NYPD retirements have quadrupled, and they're going up even further. And New York City is out of control. Unfortunately, my place, I love it, but it's out of control. It was doing so well. And Rudy Giuliani, whether you like Rudy or not, he did a great job. He was the greatest mayor in the history of New York. Murders in Atlanta are up 133% compared to the same period last year. And one of the victims was an 8-year-old girl, and we've had younger than that in Chicago last weekend. In the last 2 weeks, 105 Americans were shot in Philadelphia and Minneapolis. The city voted to disband the police department and cut it way down, but disbanded ultimately. The radical politicians are waging war on innocent Americans. That's what you're doing when you play with the police. My administration is pro-safety, pro-police, and anti-crime. And I will say, I just see a new number came in from Chicago. This weekend was a scourge. This weekend was, I guess, 20 people killed and many, many shootings. Many, many shootings, far worse than the last week. So things are happening that nobody's ever seen happen in cities that are liberally run. I call them radical lib. And yet they'll go and march on areas and rip everything down in front of them. If that's what you want for a country, you probably have to vote for Sleepy Joe Biden because he doesn't know what's happening. But you're not going to have it with me. So we've been very strong on law enforcement. We'll be doing things that you'll be, I think, very impressed with. Numbers are going to be coming down, even if we have to go in and take over cities, because we can't let that happen. When you have 20 people killed, 22 people killed in one weekend in Chicago, and you have 88 shootings, it's not even conceivable. That's worse than Afghanistan, I hate to say it. That's worse than any war zone that we're in by a lot. It makes them look like tame places by comparison, so we're not going to let it go on. We're not supposed to wait for them to call, but they don't call. We've asked Chicago, would you like us to go in and help? And they don't want to say anything, and we've called many of the cities. Would you like us to go and help? We've done a great job in Portland. Portland was totally out of control, and they went in, and I guess we have many people right now in jail, and we very much quelled it. And if it starts again, we'll quell it again very easily. It's not hard to do if you know what you're doing. So I just want to thank everybody for being here. I'd maybe ask Vice President Pence to say a couple of words, and then I'd like Bill Barr to say something, and we'll go around the room, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a real privilege to be here with the law enforcement officers who are gathered here and families whose lives have been impacted so profoundly by the courageous efforts of men and women in law enforcement. I can assure you that while some are talking about defunding the police under this president and this administration, we're going to defend the police. And we're going to back the blue because we understand that while tragedies happen, and we'll always look for ways that we can improve public safety, and the president's taken steps and taken executive action to provide new resources to improve public safety and law enforcement around the country. I want to assure you that you have a president who knows what the people gathered around this table know, is that most of the men and women who put on the uniform of law enforcement every day are the best people in this country. They risk their lives every day to make a difference in our communities, just like they've made a difference in all of your lives. And so I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for being here at this, for this conversation, because the American people will greatly benefit by being reminded of the incredible contributions that our law enforcement community makes each and every day. And I appreciate your willingness to tell that story.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, let me say what an honor it is for me to serve under a president who is such a strong supporter of law enforcement. I've said repeatedly that, to my mind, there is no more noble profession in our country than serving as a law enforcement officer. The police put their lives and well-being on the line every day for us, and their jobs have never been more difficult than it is today. Today we suffer many unprecedented social ills. Kids growing up without fathers, alienated young, angry men, gangs engaged in the most brutal kinds of violence, increasing mental illness and homelessness, and a drug epidemic, inflicting casualties beyond anything that we've experienced in a major war, and an increase in sexual assaults and child exploitation. You name it. And who is expected to deal with all of this? As other institutions fail and abdicate their responsibility, who is expected to stand their ground and pick up the pieces? The police are. And that's why I say their job, the job we ask them to do today, has never been more challenging. I believe it's important to understand that just like any other institution, there's always room for improvement. And over the past several decades, there's unquestionably been a lot of progress and reforms in policing that's improved policing and life for the officers, their families, and their communities. We have the most professional police in the world. Now, obviously, the event in Minneapolis was ghastly, and I haven't heard anyone attempt to defend it. And it has rightly brought about an urge to make sure we continue reforming and we finish the job. And I think that law enforcement understands and agrees that the concerns of the African American community regarding excessive use of force must be addressed. But we also have to be careful and not throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so extremist reactions like defund the police are trying to pull us in exactly the opposite direction of where we have to go. We have to give law enforcement more support, more training, and resources. And I think the executive order that the president signed last month strikes exactly the right balance. It's supportive of the police, and it also addresses legitimate concerns about excessive force. So our nation needs to gain a renewed appreciation of the noble work done by our police officers in protecting our communities. And I thank the president for convening this roundtable to highlight the good work done by our men and women in blue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Maybe what we'll do is we'll go around the room, and maybe you could introduce yourself and explain exactly what's going on. You have an incredible story, please.
Hi, my name is Kamira Boyd. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. Well, on June 11th, 2019, my baby started choking on breast milk, and the first thing I started to do was just run out the house and jump in the car. While leaving out of my neighborhood, Officer Kimbrough came. He was coming into the neighborhood, and he immediately pulled me over, and we immediately jumped out, and he just took her from my arms and
welcome back. That was President Trump in his latest roundtable, where he discussed the Defund the Police movement. The president says America's police officers will always have the support of his administration, especially with the recent spike in crime around the nation. And stick with us, because we'll be discussing the violence that took place over the weekend. So stay where you are. We'll be right back.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this.
Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing. To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain, and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something.
If you can find something to help you get back out and be active like Copperfit, go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up.
A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. and that's with Copperfit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
Copperfit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
Copperfit, live limitless.
Frustrated with heavy rubber hoses that always get tangled and easily kink? Introducing the Bionic Flex Pro hose, the super strong, super tough hose that's ultra light as well. Run over an ordinary hose and it'll easily burst, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose stays intact no matter what runs over it, because its reinforced drag-resistant commercial-grade outer polyester weave makes it tougher and stronger than ever. And its solid brass fittings are crush-proof too. Ordinary hoses kink easily and stop working, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose never kinks. It just keeps flowing strong. And while regular hoses easily get tangled, the Bionic Flex Pro hose is tangle-proof. You can get the 25-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose for just $19.95 with free shipping. But wait, order today and we'll upgrade your order to a 50-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose. Just pay a separate fee, and shipping is still free. Go now.
Call 1-800-313-8062.
Welcome back to America's Voice Live. I'm Jessica Rivera, and once again, let's bring in Amanda Head. Welcome back, Amanda.
Hi, Jessica. Thanks so much for having me. I wanted to start off this segment by offering a personal appeal. My family member has asked me not to talk about the fact that he's police and that he is a police officer and serves as law enforcement because he's worried for my safety. But I want to make a personal appeal from an individual standpoint as a family member of someone who serves in law enforcement. As we saw with that roundtable with Attorney General William Barr, there are a lot of folks across this country, exponentially more people across this country, who benefit from the presence of law enforcement. And it's unfortunate that you have a very, very small fringe element of the left who pretty much refuses to recognize this, Jessica, because, you know, I've seen enough videos out there of people having discussions with Antifa and Black Lives Matter folks to know that when you bring forth facts regarding this situation, facts that may oppose their narrative and the message that they get from their echo chamber, that they pretty much refuse to acknowledge it. But we know that law enforcement resources are used much, much more in urban, low-income minority communities. This is a fact. You can look at any government documents, whether it's the FBI, whether it's local and state bureaus of investigation. We know that those numbers are true. So when you seek out to defund the police and pull resources from those areas, you are ultimately hurting most the people who you think that you are helping. But Jessica, anytime you bring this up with someone, it's either a refusal to recognize those facts or a denial that those facts even exist, and it's really unfortunate. And we are literally already reaping the quote unquote benefits. Obviously, I use that term in jest, of defunding police departments. Just a few headlines here from over the weekend. New York City, 15 shootings in 15 hours. You don't have to be that great and proficient at math to know that that is a shooting an hour. You have surges in gun violence increasing, 100, 200, 300, 400%. And it's not just shootings, it's burglaries, it's rapes that was happening right there in that autonomous zone in Seattle that they finally came to their senses and shut down. Also in Chicago, 60 people shot over the weekend, 10 people were killed of those 60. So Jessica, you look at the other side and you try to have this constructive debate with them. Why do they continue to not acknowledge these numbers, because you're not hearing Lori Lightfoot, mayor of Chicago, talk about this. Really, the only person who has even touched on this is Mayor Keisha Bottoms of Atlanta.
And Amanda, I really think it has to do with the lack of responsibility that a lot of these younger adults or people who support this movement are behind. They don't want people to be held responsible for drug dealing, gun charges, things of that nature, because they want to coddle the criminal. And they don't realize that, and I don't know how they don't, because it doesn't make any sense with the facts that are stated. They seem to think that somehow in this utopian idea of what they believe how the world should run, that everything's just going to be peachy keen, and that's not it. They don't care about facts, as you were stating. And until, it's obviously, you can see in Chicago every weekend we're talking about this, and the numbers don't go down, they go up. And the majority of these people who are affected or killed are children, and they're usually minority children who are stuck in these situations. So I don't understand how they think that they're going to be able to do away with police and it's going to become safer. I don't understand it, but I think it has to do with the lack of responsibility.
Yeah, and I watched a video this morning that was posted by a conservative news source, one of their anchors, one of their folks out on the street, having a discussion with a black man who was a part of the Black Lives Matter protests. And his argument was that the government specifically and intentionally plants liquor stores and gun stores in minority communities. Now, of course, we know that in Chicago, that's not the case. In Los Angeles, that's not the case. In Sacramento, that's not the case. In Detroit, that's not the case, because those cities and states have very strict gun laws. So there are no gun stores. But there are liquor stores. And this man's argument was that they plant these liquor stores in those communities so that these communities will, I guess, become alcoholics, lose their jobs, begin becoming recipients of the welfare system, things like that. That it's basically this intentional, overlord plan to suppress the black community. And this commentator said, well, so then, even if that were true, which it's not, then we can both agree that government needs to go away, that big government is a bad thing. And this guy still wouldn't even agree with him, because the commentator said, so you are in support of small government. And he said, I don't really care. I don't know. I don't care. I just want to live my life. And it's like you are running, your argument just runs in circles, because then they got on the issue of homelessness. And the commentator said, look around, you've got these homeless people, they're all white. And he said, well, that was their choice. Okay, so if for white people, it's their choice to be homeless, to not have a job, to be downtrodden in their lives, to not seek out the right opportunities, to not seize on the right opportunities, but it's not one's own fault in the black community. And let me be clear, I'm not making that argument on either side, but it just shows how their arguments collapse on themselves, and how it actually makes that person racist to suggest that this is specific only to the white community or the black community, right, Jessica?
Absolutely. And being raised in Los Angeles, I will tell you factually, there are more liquor stores in minority communities. But I will tell you this much: they cannot survive if that community does not support them. And that's where it comes in, the lack of responsibility. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to go patronize it. Don't patronize it. Allow that store to go out of business so they can bring something else in. But when you patronize it, it's a capitalist society. So when you give money to something and it becomes more powerful, it's needed, they're going to bring in more. And they just don't understand that.
Wouldn't you assume also that those local liquor stores in those communities are owned by people in that community?
Absolutely. And it comes down to the same thing with minority communities with illegal drug dealing. A lot of these times they're destroying their own people in their own communities because that's who they're selling to. And it's as simple as that. And it's a fact. It has nothing to do with feelings or opinions. It is what it is. If there wasn't a need for that, they'd go to another community and sell it, or they would just stop selling it altogether. But it's because they don't want to be responsible for their actions, be that good or their bad actions, because they're good actions, of course, they want praise for. And I will say that because I'm personally, I'm Hispanic. There's nothing white about me. I am not black, but it's very similar in minority communities. And being raised in Los Angeles, you see this with a lot of communities. And I always questioned, yes, they may be placed there, but they can't stay there without your support.
Absolutely. All right, let's play this clip before we close out the segment because I want to comment on it. Here it is.
There were 28 shootings in New York, 600% increase from this time last year. You have Representative Ocasio-Cortez saying this is just because people are trying to get food with their families. That is preposterous. The reality is 63% of Americans in this country fear that criticism of our police departments will lead to no public safety in their streets. And 69% of Black Americans, this is a real issue when you call our police cancer, when you talk about dismantling them. And then this weekend in New York, you see a 1-year-old killed in his stroller. His name was DeVell Gardner Jr., and that 1-year-old will be in our prayers. Not only that, you see Officers Garza and Chavez. And to your question about how we should talk about the police and defund the police, a movement the president stands against, the two officers ambushed this weekend. One of them, Officer Chavez's daughter, wrote a very touching tribute online. She said, "Words cannot describe the pain I'm in, but I'm glad my dad is at peace. You are an amazing man, and anyone who ever came across you knew that. I'm going to miss you so much. You died doing what you love most. You died a hero." And those touching words were written by Savannah Chavez. And I know she received vile and outrageous comments online that were absolutely atrocious for a touching sentiment to her dad. I want Savannah to know your dad is a hero. His police department should never be defunded because most of our police officers are good, hardworking men and women and heroes, much like Savannah's dad.
So, Jessica, I don't know if you saw that ridiculous comment by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez claiming that that the only reason crime was going up was because people were stealing bread. I am not deluded enough to think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has read Victor Hugo's 700-page novel, but she is appropriating Jean Valjean's plotline from Les Miserables.
And I hate to say it, but every time she opens her mouth, I just question where she gets her information because that's absolutely absurd. And that's all I can say about that. It's ridiculous.
And I'm pretty sure that stealing a loaf of bread is not the crime that NYPD officers are worried about. That, that's not something that when you are protecting and serving, that you are protecting people from losing their lives. Sure, it's true that you shouldn't steal and you shouldn't, commit robbery, even to a small scale, like just stealing a loaf of bread. But I'm pretty sure that stealing a loaf of bread is not one of the numbers that they included in the 60 in Chicago that resulted in 11 deaths, the 15 in New York City over the course of 15 hours. I'm pretty sure that those numbers aren't included in there. But anyway, coming up after the break, we've got America's Voice contributor Dr. Tom Borelli on to talk about Joe Biden. You know how every so often you hear liberals talk about how President Trump or even First Lady Melania Trump plagiarized their speeches? Well, even though that's not true, it does actually happen with Joe Biden, and this seems to be recidivistic behavior on his part because he's done it many times in the past. We've got that and more coming up after the break here on America's Voice Live.
Stay tuned to get a free pan from Granite Stone. Stuck on eggs, burnt on batter. You can scrub and scrape, but you can't escape the nightmare of your sticky pans. Introducing the Granite Stone Pan, the all-new durable non-stick pan. No butter or oil needed. Watch, we melted down these sticky candies in Granite Stone, and it just doesn't stick. We cooked a half a dozen eggs, bacon, cheese, and tomato breakfast with no butter or oil, and it just doesn't stick. Look, caramels, chocolate, and cheese. Unreal for any other pan, but not for Granite Stone. It just doesn't stick. Granite Stone will be the last pan you'll ever need because it's pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction, then coated 3 times with our durable Granite Stone finish. Granite Stone is metal utensil safe and won't scratch. And talk about non-stick. This salmon cooked skin side down with no added butter or oil just doesn't stick. This steak is perfectly seared just like the pros. And because granite stone is oven rated to 500 degrees, we bake this upside down pan pizza to perfection, and it just doesn't stick. Fire Flambe Delicious Cherries Jubilee. Plus, it's PFOA free and 100% dishwasher safe. Call or go online to get your granite stone pan for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. Granite stone is so durable it comes with a 10-year warranty. And with every order, you're going to get a granite stone single-serve egg pan absolutely free. It's the perfect size for personalized eggs, omelets, or frittatas that slide right out. It makes the best bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich quick. Yours absolutely free. We'll even ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. You get it all, an incredible value. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-850-0237. That's 1-800-850-0237, or order online at buygranitestone.com. That's 1-800-850-0237. Call now.
You hate coming home to a dark house, and leaving lights on all night drives utility bills out of sight. You need the Bell & Howell Bionic Spotlight, the outdoor motion sensor light that turns on the instant motion is detected and turns off when the motion stops. Bionic Spotlight is solar powered, so there's no expensive wiring or batteries to change. The instant the motion sensor detects movement, Bionic Spotlight triggers 8 high-intensity LED lights that shower the entire area with light and then shuts off 30 seconds after it stops. So you can spend hundreds of dollars on an outdoor lighting system, or you can get the motion-activated Bionic Spotlight for just $19.95 with free shipping. Bionic Spotlight is backed by our 5-year warranty. But wait, if you order right now, you can double the offer and get a second Bionic Spotlight. Just pay a separate fee. And when you call, ask about the contractor's discount on the complete 6-light home value set. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-486-4451 or go to BionicSpotlight.com. That's 1-800-486-4451 or order online at BionicSpotlight.com.
Welcome back to America's Voice Live. Joe Biden, there is a perceived pattern for him over his multiple attempts at the presidency. One of those those trademark factors is his propensity to lie. This happened all the way back in the 80s and 90s when he talked about some of the things that he did as an elected official when in fact he did not. He's lied about his stance on things numerous times. And he also has stolen other people's words and comments and placed them into his own speeches and then denied the fact that he plagiarized. Here's a clip.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania don't come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground and then come up and play football.
It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
Cannot measure the health of our children.
The health of our children.
The quality of our education.
The quality of their education.
The joy of their play.
Or the joy of their play.
Now, I have a personal vendetta against anyone who plagiarizes a Kennedy, but Dr. Tom Borelli, welcome to the show.
Happy Monday, Amanda. Great to be back.
Happy Monday. Good to see you. All right. So in that clip, it highlighted some of the instances of former Vice President Joe Biden plagiarizing a speech. And look, if you took just one of those comments, if it was just an isolated instance, then you would say, okay, well, probably a lot of people have wives who they were the first person from their family who attended college. But when you have a concentration from one speech by one person with at least 3 different instances of copying those words, I'm pretty sure it's intentional at that point.
I mean, when you really take a step back and look at it, former Vice President Joe Biden is an absolute fraud. He is a fraud. And let's take it out of the political context. Let's say he was a stockbroker and he was trying to sell you on some investment, and he lied about his background. He lied about the return of what this potential product could yield to you. He would lose his stockbroker's license for being a fraud. However, in politics, you could basically get away with just about anything, and Biden has, in his 40-year career, He has plagiarized not only speeches, as you showed in that clip, but when he was in law school, he plagiarized a paper, which I think not just one sentence, I think it was pages. So the man is a complete fraud. And he also has exaggerated his background. He made a claim that he finished in the top part of his law school and that he was there on a full scholarship. Wrong. There's something fundamentally wrong with people when they have to feel the need to exaggerate themselves to somehow sell themselves to somebody. It would be like somebody trying to meet somebody in a bar and saying, I'm this brain surgeon and I'm a multimillionaire, when they're not. I mean, the man is a complete fraud, and I'm glad that tape is out there. And the American people really have to think about, do they want someone who has had a pattern of lying and cheating to run the United States?
I certainly don't. My background is music. I was in the music industry for a long time. People consider music to be a language within itself. And at the time when I was in the music industry, when this was something that was discussed among studios and writers, the federal law was 7 consecutive notes as far as plagiarizing someone's tune. If it went beyond 7 consecutive notes that were exactly just like another song, it was considered plagiarism. So when you have 7 words at least that are plagiarized from someone else's speech. A lot of folks on the left, people in the music industry, are the ones who are screeching about plagiarism and someone copying their music, and yet when it comes to something like this, they're completely silent.
And that's a great point, Amanda. What we really need is consistency. So politicians, I don't care what party you're from, they should be treated and have the same accountability as you, I, or anybody else we know. There should not be 2 sets of rules, 2 sets of books, 2 sets of standards just because they're an elected official. And I think that's one of the fundamental problems we have, is that elected officials really can get away with way too much. They can get away with lying and cheating and stealing. And because people are so emotionally involved, like it's a team sport, they don't look at the character. And what we really need, especially in this world that we're living in today, we need people who are experienced and are really truthful and have good judgment. And Biden's response to a lot of this, he came back and he said, well, he's made, I'm going to paraphrase, I've made dumb choices, mistakes before, I'm going to make them again. I don't want someone in the White House who's openly admitting to say, I've made dumb mistakes. Because it could be a really dumb mistake.
I assaulted my staffer, and that was a dumb mistake, and I'm probably going to keep doing it. It's definitely an invalid cop-out. But just to reiterate to our audience, there are certain phrases within political language in the United States, phrases like God bless the United States of America, that obviously you can't patent, copyright, or trademark. It's the same thing in the music industry. Anyone can name a song Love, you can name an album Love. Any of those common phrases, common words are exempt from the scrutiny of the federal government when it comes to copywriting and plagiarism. Speaking of copywriting and plagiarism, the left is accusing President Trump's campaign of utilizing an eagle and a circle symbol because they say that it looks similar to the Nazi eagle emblem. So you see that there. It is an eagle, which by the way is our national symbol, holding a circle containing the American flag within. It is a part of the America First agenda. There you see the symbol of the Nazi party, of the SS, the eagle holding the wreath with the Nazi insignia on the inside. Here's the uncomfortable truth, though. For Nancy Pelosi, as Speaker of the House, her letterhead actually has another emblem that looks very, very similar to Nazi Germany's emblem. There it is on her letterhead. And then on top of that, you've got the United States Marines, whose symbol also looks very, very similar to that. The eagle holding a circular object beneath it, which of course in the Marines instance, that is the globe, our world. So Tom, I'm not sure who initially put out this report. Maybe I think it was ABC or news, I don't know who it was, but it's left-stream media who will take anything that the Trump campaign does and run with it, and especially when they have an opportunity to compare President Trump and Nazis, they're going to go for it.
Amanda, this is a reoccurring theme here with our segments together, because we've talked about how the anti-Trump media could just manufacture a crisis out of nowhere, and the origins of the story was a USA Today fact check where they said, yes, indeed, President Trump is being criticized, or his campaign is being criticized for using a symbol that's very similar to those used by the Nazis. And then quickly after, the people on Twitter were really pressuring USA Today, and they issued a correction. They said, oh, by the way, and they had some sort of correction. Again, 2 points. One, the anti-Trump media will do anything to discredit President Trump and his campaign. And two, the power of the people to correct things when they are wrong. These news organizations need to be called out and embarrassed when they do such ridiculous commentary. And it's ridiculous on face value because, number one, President Trump's daughter has converted to the Jewish faith. His son-in-law is a very religious Jew, and so are his grandchildren are being raised Jewish. So the fact that you even hint that President Trump is any way supportive of any kind of Nazism is completely insane, and yet they continue to do it.
Yeah, and while we are talking about symbols that are evocative of murderous regimes, let's talk about the Black Lives Matter symbol with the fist that very closely resembles that of the CCCP. I can't remember what that stands for in Russian, but basically the USSR, the United Soviet Socialist Republic. Lest we forget that under Stalin's Soviet Russia, the most conservative estimates are that 20 million people were murdered under that regime. So that obviously that hammer and that sickle is the symbol that's banned in a lot of countries, by the way. Thank goodness we have free speech in this country, but because of its implications to history, a lot of countries have banned that symbolism. Tom, do you think Black Lives Matter did this on purpose? I'm pretty sure they did. They're just ignorant to the facts behind the CCCP.
You know, who knows with Black Lives Matter? After all, the two, I believe the founding members have said they're basically Marxists. So maybe they actually did copy it and just changed the color to reflect the Black Lives Matter theme in terms of it being black. But at least in that instance, the themes are kind of correct. But again, the symbolism is really, you could look and see anything that you want to. But again, the problem is that there's a whole infrastructure of the anti-Trump movement that is ready to seize and jump anything to try to discredit the president and his campaign.
Yeah, and it seems, we're in such a twisted world right now where you have murderous regimes who, now you have Black Lives Matter emulating their symbolism, and it's absolutely disgusting. And then you have President Trump, who is trying to make policies and act policies that are good for all Americans, and yet he gets called a Nazi. It's pretty unbelievable. Anyway, Dr. Tom Borelli, we appreciate you being on with us today. And Jessica, I'm going to throw it back to you in Denver.
All right, thank you, Amanda. And coming up after the break, Tudor Dixon and Matt Locke will be your hosts. Today, they'll be talking with our very own Ben Bergquam, David Zier, and Miranda Kahn. You don't want to miss it. And it's all coming up here on America's Voice Live.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back my pillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows and nothing's worked like my pillow.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress toppers, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or My Pillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
I used to think that sheets were just sheets. I got the Giza Dream sheets. They are the most comfortable sheets I've ever had.
The Go Anywhere pillow is so easy to just roll up and take anywhere I want to go.
Go Anywhere pillow is really comfortable, so that's what I really like. It's nice and supportive and it's nice and small.
The My Pillow topper, for the first time, has enabled me to have a cool night's sleep. I'm able to go to bed and just get rest.
That's 3 inches of wonderful that's in the My Pillow mattress topper. It's just like a firm cloud.
My Pillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but so much more. For example, you get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or My Pillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
You hate coming home to a dark house, and leaving lights on all night drives utility bills out of sight. You need the Bell & Howell Bionic Spotlight, the outdoor motion sensor light that turns on the instant motion is detected and turns off when the motion stops. Bionic Spotlight is solar powered, so there's no expensive wiring or batteries to change. The instant the motion sensor detects movement, Bionic Spotlight triggers 8 high-intensity LED lights that shower the entire area with light and then shuts off 30 seconds after it stops. So you can spend hundreds of dollars on an outdoor lighting system, or you can get the motion-activated Bionic Spotlight for just $19.95 with free shipping. Bionic Spotlight is backed by our 5-year warranty. But wait, if you order right now, you can double the offer and get a second Bionic Spotlight. Just pay a separate fee. And when you call, ask about the contractor's discount on the complete 6-light home value set. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-486-4451 or go to BionicSpotlight.com. That's 1-800-486-4451 or order online at BionicSpotlight.com.
Welcome back to America's Voice Live. I'm Tudor Dixon alongside Matt Locke. And as promised, we do have our very own Ben Berkwam with us. He was in New York City over the weekend. We want to hear all about that. Ben, tell us what happened.
Hey, Matt and Tudor. We had the honor, I'm actually wearing the hat that was awarded to me by the president of the Detectives Union in the NYPD. We actually had an opportunity to go out there. We actually had planned to go to New York City after the New Hampshire rally got postponed to go to the Trump Tower and to see the graffiti that has been placed on the ground by Mayor de Blasio alongside BLM. There were some patriots out there, some pro-police, pro-Trump American patriots that were out there flying their flags. But before we went there, we had the opportunity, again, just an outright amazing privilege to go meet with the president of the Detectives Union. And I think we have a little clip of some of that we can play right now.
It's $1 billion removal of funds from the police department in the state of New York.
Particular instance, how it affects the members on the street now is there are new laws enacted to further tie the hands of the police, but there is no training on how to train for these new laws that were enacted. One is, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a state chokehold bill that was enacted by the governor and the New York State Assembly and the Senate. And then there was also a bill in the New York City Council that was enacted, a chokehold bill, which makes it a misdemeanor if a police officer, while subduing a suspect that's resisting arrest, puts his knee, foot, or behind on the diaphragm area, whether it be the back or the front. So that's a very difficult thing to do. It's virtually impossible. And there is no training for that right now. And they're out there at their own risk. And the money that was taken out of the budget for the police department should be used to train the officers how to subdue someone that's resisting arrest without touching from the bottom of the chin to the waist area.
And this is just part of the interview with Paul, I want to pronounce it right, Di Giacomo. He is the president of the Detectives Union, NYPD Detectives Union. I'm telling you, we're going to air this later on Facebook Live on America's Voice News. You don't want to miss this. The information that he gives about the threat to America, it is scary to say the least, not just in New York City, but across the country. What this is opening up, what BLM and the left and these lawless Democrats are opening up to this country in regards to lawlessness, but also in regards to terrorism, it will blow your mind. And the scary thing is no other mainstream media is talking about this. You can see here Mayor de Blasio actually painting this on. And so people understand, BLM is not a good organization for the black community. It is an anti-American communist organization similar to what the Black Panthers were in the 60s that is designed to destroy this country from within. Guys, just stay tuned. It's incredible, the stuff that he brought out in this interview.
So Ben, I have to ask you the question as we watched that interview with you and the gentleman there from the DEA. He said they're working on training of police officers to not touch a suspect from the chin to the waist. How do you subdue somebody? Do you grab them by the legs?
Exactly. No, and this is the insanity of this. The follow-up question I asked is, from a martial arts standpoint, the training on submissions is based on jiu-jitsu and wrestling. The only way you're able to control your opponent is to, or in this case an assailant, a criminal, is to put pressure on their chest and their abdomen. That's the only way. So if you're going to try to subdue somebody who's on drugs, who is violent, who's got a gun on them, and you're doing that without the ability to put pressure on their chest, it's going to be impossible. And what this means to law enforcement is more hurt and potentially killed officers and more hurt and potentially killed members of the public. That's all this means. And the insanity of all this is it's being done by people that have no experience in law enforcement. People are making these rules, and like he said, they're telling you, they're saying this is what we have to do now, but they're providing no training guidelines on how to do it because there are no training guidelines on how to do it because it doesn't work. And the people that know how it works can't create training around it because that training won't work. And that's the scary thing. It is a small piece. The scariest part to me about this interview, and again, we're going to be playing that later with myself and Will Johnson on America's Voice News on our Facebook page, and we'll be airing more of the segments throughout the different shows on this network. The scariest part is, we asked him, he said he doesn't think anything's going to change until we hit rock bottom. And we said, are we near it? And he said, absolutely not. Until this starts affecting the politicians that are making these rules, we're not going to be near rock bottom. And that is a scary thing when you see what's going on in this country.
Well, Ben, I think something you said was interesting. They're asking them to train on this, but there's nobody that can train on it. But here you also have a situation where you have these folks who are just regular people asking to defund the police, and yet they want more training, and so they want to take money away and they want police to do more with less. We had a situation that was similar to this over the weekend in Philadelphia. There was a man who was outside of the hospital, very belligerent. He was vomiting. The police, he went up, the medical personnel came out, they tried to get him into the hospital. He began to attack medical personnel. He began to spit in their faces, and the police held him down. Now, the police officer did put a knee on his neck, and this, of course, caused media outrage. They said, we have a very belligerent person here who is attacking hospital staff, spitting in their face, which right now, if you were to talk to the left, that would be attempted murder. So they're trying to get a mask on him so that he can't spit into the medical personnel's face. Now the police officer is under fire for this. At what point do we say our police officers have to be able to protect the public?
Right, and this goes back, I've spoken to many members of law enforcement. I have friends and family that are in law enforcement, and this is an acceptable practice in law enforcement, is a neck to the side of the neck, to the back of the head for a brief period of time in order to subdue a criminal, in order to subdue somebody who's non-responsive or who's combative. When you're dealing with somebody who's on drugs, many times it'll take 3 or 4 officers to get that person down, and oftentimes we have officers, 1 or 2 on the scene. You have to give the officers the tools necessary to be able to do their job. What this means, what the left, what New York City, what California is asking for is more dead police officers, because they're telling them to do things that will put their lives in danger. And we saw that in Detroit as well over the weekend. A 19-year-old criminal pulled out a gun. Thank God he missed the officers. The officer shot back and immediately killed this 19-year-old criminal. And immediately you had protests in the streets. This is happening all over the country, and all it's doing is putting law enforcement in danger and law-abiding citizens in danger. It is asinine what is happening in this country.
So, Ben, we've got just a couple minutes left. I'm going to ask a question that comes to my mind. So if you can't subdue a criminal, or like Tudor just said, subdue somebody on the ground, do you just walk up and tase them? Is it just over at that point? Walk up and tase them and be done?
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, that's from my standpoint. Okay, that's what it's going to have to go to. Unfortunately, it's the opposite. What's happening right now? They're just not dealing with them. And so what we're seeing all over the country is quote unquote low-level offenses not being policed. And this interview, we get into that with the president, Paul there, and he goes into the reason why. And this is so critical. People don't understand this. Low-level offenses lead to higher-level offenses. There were the vast majority of low-level offenders have also committed higher-level crimes. And what often happens is if you take a low-level offender off the street, you're preventing larger crimes, more violent crimes from happening in the future. That's exactly what Mayor Giuliani did back in the 90s. They were having a pandemic of criminality in New York City in the 80s. Giuliani came along the scenes and said, we're going to police heavy on the low-level offenses. And what that did was take these criminals off the street so they didn't do the higher-level crimes. As we continue to do this, what's going to happen is we're going to see that pendulum swing to where we're not policing the low-level crimes, and we're going to see a huge increase. And we're already seeing that in New York City. Shootings are up 200% since these measures were put into place. 200%. And what's going to happen is the public is going to get sick of this eventually, and we're going to see that pendulum swing back. And you're right. If they can't subdue a criminal, then they're going to have to deal with them somehow. And that either is a taser, not less than lethal force, or lethal force.
Well, Ben Berquam, thank you so much. Our very own America's Voice News, Ben Berquam, on the scene in New York, by the way, Tudor. And, look, I'm going to tell you, you've got 2 choices in this, and Ben just said it. Either you don't police it at all, and you let it go, or you over-police it and you use either non-lethal or lethal force. I mean, we're tying the hands of our police department, so you're leaving it to a choice of, do you go too far or do you not go at all, Tudor?
It's outrageous. You're not only tying the hands of your police department, but you're leaving your communities in such a dangerous place. As he was saying, these lower level offenses, they just are the beginning. They lead into the higher level crimes. And that's where you end up with the shootings and the murders. And once you have police out of those communities and they're not used to, they don't have those relationships, and there's nobody to call, you end up with a much more significant problem. And then how do you get that police force back in there? There's never been a time in history in any country where you take police out of a situation that has become chaotic and ridden with crime, and crime just goes away. It doesn't just go away because police aren't there. It doesn't go away because you're not looking at it. It gets worse, and you leave mothers and children in a situation where they're completely unsafe and they have nobody even to call, because we're not talking about police just going to other districts. We're talking about them completely taking police out of the city. It is asinine. Stay tuned. We will be right back with our own David Zier here on America's Voice Live to talk more about what's happening in New York City.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of My Pillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented My Pillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made My Pillow machine washable and dryable. I back My Pillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows and nothing's worked like My Pillow.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress toppers, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or My Pillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
I used to think that sheets were just sheets. I got the Giza Dream sheets. They are the most comfortable sheets I've ever had.
The Go Anywhere pillow is so easy to just roll up and take anywhere I want to go.
Go Anywhere pillow is really comfortable, so that's what I really like. It's nice and supportive and it's nice and small.
The My Pillow topper, for the first time, has enabled me to have a cool night's sleep. I'm able to go to bed and just get rest.
That's 3 inches of wonderful that's in the My Pillow mattress topper. It's just like a firm cloud.
My Pillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but so much more. For example, you get body pillows regularly $89.99, now only $29.99, or My Pillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
America's Voice News brings you real news and real opinion in a real world. If you care about this country, then you can help by sharing America's Voice with your friends and family. We're here to bring you the truth with no agendas. America is one of the greatest countries of all time. We need a great leader to keep us on track and safe. If you support this president, then help us by being a beacon of hope and standing up for this great nation. Join us as we fight to bring you the truth in a crazy world. Search America's Voice News on all apps, Roku, Pluto TV, and Dish Network Channel 219. Please help by downloading America's Voice News to your phone, on your smart TV. Search America's Voice on all your internet-connected devices. Then share the truth with your friends and family. America's Voice News, the real news network. Join the America's Voice revolution and consider yourself an American patriot.
Well, welcome back to America's Voice Live alongside Tudor Dixon. I am Matt Locke. Hey, big favor here. Go find Tudor at Tudor Dixon on all of our social media platforms. Yeah, I know you got the influencer badge in some places and whatnot, so you're now important, Tudor. Go find me at Real Matt Locke on all of my social media platforms. And, of course, you're following America's Voice News. And speaking of America's Voice News, we got our very own contributor, David Zier, is with us from New York. David, welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, guys.
So, David, they painted Black Lives Matter on the street in front of Trump Tower, and we're all supposed to feel good about it, right?
Yes, and we cured racism at the same time.
Yeah, and so, David, I got to ask, so you were at this deal with this protest of Black Lives Matter. Why were you there? What was going on?
Well, it was Operation Flag Drop, and a lot of people that I know in New York City are very upset, and I'm so happy to hear that America's Voice News was heading down there after New Hampshire, because I was on my way down there anyway to participate in the flag drop, and of course Ben and Will were down there, and they had great coverage. So these guys are angry, right? Because they don't think it's the right message to put on iconic Fifth Avenue that all our Christmas movies are filmed on, that I spent my life growing up going down there. And it's such a beautiful place. And we don't need political messages on the street. And it was a poke in the eye of Donald Trump. And we all know that Black Lives Matter really doesn't care about all black lives, obviously, because they never speak out against the hundreds of people that have been shot. Do you know that the crime for June in New York City is more than all of the whole year combined? And shootings are up 130% from last year. Murders are up 25%. 3,000 Rikers Island prison inmates were let go due to the COVID and bail reform, and they committed 9,000 crimes in just the last few weeks. People are leaving New York City in droves. So this was not the right message to put on the sidewalks and the streets of New York. And half an hour ago, somebody dumped red paint along over the Black Lives Matter mural in New York City. So somebody's at large. They'll probably get him and give him the death penalty, right?
Well, I'm sure people are upset for exactly the reason you said. I mean, last weekend we had a father walking with his young daughter who was shot in cold blood in the middle of the daytime in New York, and you don't hear Black Lives Matter coming out and saying this was a father who needed to be there for his daughter. This happened with his daughter holding his hand. She's lucky she got away without dying. We've had multiple children who've been shot in just the last month. Multiple children who've been murdered in just the last month. Some have sustained gunshot wounds and lived. Others have been murdered. And we have not heard Black Lives Matter come out and say word one about those children's lives. All black lives, all shot by other black people. This is outrageous that we are now putting this political message out there, which is truly a political message of communism. Now, David, is this mural permanent? Is this something that's temporary? What can we expect to see in New York come wintertime? Is it still going to be there?
Well, it was supposed to be permanent. Their intention is to make it permanent. Yesterday a 1-year-old was killed in New York City, was shot. There were 15 shootings in a 15-hour period. This is out of control. There were 125 shootings in the first 3 weeks of June in New York City. And, this is a phenomenon across the country, right? Like Chicago had about 100 shootings on July 4th weekend. Cities all over, Milwaukee, New Orleans, you name it. There's a big crime spike. And this is the type of government people want if the Democrats get elected. So I don't know what anything positive that comes out of putting these murals on the streets. There is talk about putting a Blue Lives Matter slogan or painting or mural outside of police headquarters. I don't think they should do anything, though. Let's not deface our public property. Let's not, and if the police are offensive to people or Black Lives Matter is offensive to people, why create division in our society, right? We need to move on. We need to get our economy open. And we know BLM took advantage of the COVID unemployment and everything. But I don't think these people know what they're marching for. Because when you donate to BLM, it goes right to the Democratic Party through Act Blue. And it's really not about, Black Lives Matter. And, a lady was killed, a white woman was killed for chanting All Lives Matter. But I got to tell you about the protest really quick, Operation Flag Drop. We laid the flag down on the logo, on the mural. It was very exciting. There was opposition there. But, they're loudmouths and they're uninformed completely. They were calling all of us racist, which is really wrong. There were no racists there. Everybody there wants the cops to be safe. They want our populations to be safe. They want our kids to be able to play in the park without getting shot. And, the opposition there in New York City, they're very loud. They're very emboldened by Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo. It's a really sad state of affairs. We're losing our city. And, this is the highest rate of shootings since 1996. And, when we interviewed Giuliani during Turning Point this winter, he was crying almost in our interview. And he's so upset before the COVID, what happened to New York City. So now this has happened and the George Floyd protest. We need the city to turn around. It's going to take years because Giuliani was able to get private investment like Disney to Times Square. He cleaned up Times Square. And he cleaned up the whole city, and I watched it firsthand, and I participated in it. This has to stop, and people are leaving New York in droves. The real estate market's down 70% in some areas in New York City, so we got to fix it.
So, David, you just mentioned it, and I want to talk about this. You've got people leaving New York. I mean, there are a lot of them who are leaving New York. They don't like... They don't like, obviously, the environment. You've got crime way up. We're taking $1 billion out of the fund for the police department when we should be probably giving them more. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came out and said, well, people are committing crimes because they're hungry, unemployment's high, and there's no jobs. So what is going to happen to New York? New York City's got a $7 billion donut hole in it. People are leaving. Tax money's leaving. What does this mean for the future of New York City?
Well, the way Giuliani turned around the city was quality of life crimes through CompStat. And if you were jumping a turnstile, chances are you had a warrant out for your arrest or you were carrying a weapon. And he cleaned up the city that way. But he also cleaned it up by investing private corporations to take risks with federal loan guarantees called the Anchor Revitalization Program. And when he did that, it allowed developers to go into Harlem, 116th and Lenox Corridor, Mermaid Avenue and Coney Island, and all these areas that really went downhill under the Dinkins administration and the previous Democratic-run administrations in New York City. And he turned around the city. But that took years, right? That took years. And then they had the 421B, where a developer gets a 10-year phased-in tax abatement when he takes the risk to build an apartment complex or something. But that disappeared. That's still going on, but those investors are going to disappear. Right? If there isn't a market for new construction in New York, and half of Wall Street has already moved to Palm Beach Island and to Tennessee and Nashville, and the backup servers don't need to be here, what do you have left after Wall Street? You've got Disney, you've got tourism, you've got entertainment. Why would you want to come to the city and tour New York City when you have like the Occupy Wall Street style encampment at the base of City Hall right now, or every corner gets spray painted with like a communist hammer and sickle? New York is going to take a long time to recover. Broadway shut down. They're extending the lockdown just to punish Trump and to make him look bad. There's no deaths going on in New York from the COVID. There's only been a few deaths in many weeks. We have to open up here. There's 27,000 restaurants, and only 5,000 of them have outdoor seating. 86% of restaurants in New York City and on Long Island are going to go out of business who are privately owned, who don't have corporate or chain finance, financing behind them from like a chain like McDonald's. And this is an SOS to President Trump. He needs to come up with something fast to address this problem.
David, we agree. It's very interesting. Thank you so much for reporting on this today. Thank you for going out there over the weekend. Really appreciate having you on the show. Absolutely. And what he was saying about that woman over the 4th of July weekend who was shot, really, we have not heard anything about this. Her name is Jessica Doty Whitaker. She was 24 years old. There were a few folks out there chanting Black Lives Matter. She said back, all lives matter. She was walking with her fiance at the time. His name is Jose Ramirez. They have a 3-year-old, or she has a 3-year-old son. They got into an argument. They went back and forth. They thought they had cleared up the matter, walked away from one another. After a few minutes, these folks were someplace hiding out, waiting to shoot her, and shot her dead. Matt, she leaves her 3-year-old son behind. It's a very sad story, but we are not hearing about it. And some folks are speculating that we're not hearing about this because she's white. And at this point, we really are only talking about black people who are either attacked by white people or by the police, but not black people who are involved in black-on-black crime. It's a strange situation we're in right now, Matt.
Well, and it's a sad situation we're in, Tudor, because you're right. In the majority of the mainstream media today is propaganda. It's based on a narrative they want you to know. It's not about reporting the news anymore. It's not about the who, what, when, or why. Our good friend John Cardillo put on Twitter today where he saw an Amazon truck was literally looted by a gang of black people in New York City. And you see the video, and there's about 30 of them. And they pull the driver out of the Prime van, out of the Amazon Prime van, and they start looting the van. They're taking packages out of the back. They're just, it's like a swarm of ants going after this. And I'm going to tell you, Tudor, as we watch and we see these Democrat-run cities who continue to say, let's defund the police. Let's have chaos. Let's have anarchy. Let's not worry about the rule of law. Let's not, and we didn't get into it with David, but we've got the bail reform there in New York where if you commit a crime, you go to jail, you're back out on the street that day. I mean, they can't hold you. We saw the gentleman there in New York, one of the police chiefs say, out of the 2,000 people, we put 1,200 people in jail and they were back out on the street the next day. So we are watching as lawlessness, as the rule of order is absolutely thrown out the window in places like Atlanta, New York City, Chicago, Seattle. They've actually now got a petition after the Seattle mayor to get rid of her, to go in there and do what they did with Scott Walker. They want to recall her. So we're going to see what's happened here. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, President Trump commutes the sentence of Roger Stone, and the left's not happy about it.
Everyone loves the benefits of compression socks, but they're just so hard to get on. Until now. Introducing the all-new Copperfit Energy Socks, redesigned for the first ever easy on, easy off fit to help reduce swelling, relieve tired, achy muscles, and provide energizing support. A new blend of stretch fabric for the most comfortable, easy on, easy off compression fit.
Being a SWAT commander, we train to win. The Copperfit Energy Socks, they didn't feel like other compression socks. They totally exceeded my expectations.
Our most powerful copper-infused fabric, woven into our easy on, easy off compression sock to help reduce swelling discomfort from prolonged sitting or standing.
I'm 38 and a half weeks pregnant. Copperfit Energy Socks worked beautifully.
Extra support around the arch and ankles for increased support and relief of muscle aches and pains.
I'm so excited about these socks. I'm so much more energized to go do things after a day of work. They just slip right on, yet they still have that same compression that you want.
A soft cushion footbed for all-day comfort.
I'm on my feet at least 9 to 10 hours a day. These were fantastic. A lot of compression socks are a little too thin, especially for what I do. With Copperfit, I could wear these every day.
Feel more energized. Feel more active. Just feel better.
They just hug your leg. It relieves all the pressure that you have. I have so much energy, I can go, hey, you want to dance?
The first ever easy on, easy off compression sock. The most comfortable compression sock you will ever wear. Get your Copperfit Energy Socks now online at GetEnergySocks.com for only $19.99 or call 1-800-978-1224. Order right now and we'll include a second pair of compression socks free.
I've never felt anything like it before.
No more pain, no more swelling, no more achy, tired feet.
I can never go back to regular compression socks again.
Don't settle for ordinary. Ask for the original by name, Copperfit Energy Socks.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close. Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars with laser illumination technology for just $39.99. You'll also get a protective carrying case, yours free. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling Atomic Beam flashlight, just pay separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-788-1008. That's 1-800-788-1008. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Welcome back to America's Voice Live. I'm Tudor Dixon alongside Matt Locke. And as Matt promised, we want to talk about Roger Stone and the president commuting his sentence. A lot of people are fired up on the left. We actually had the chance to talk to him. Matt, you spoke to him in the fall. So we want to play that now. Let's look at that, and then we want to come back and talk about everything that's going on with the left and how crazy they've become. Here it is.
Around Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Could you imagine if President Trump were the vice president and his son, Donald Trump Jr., was getting paid $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month to sit on a board of a gas and oil company? Do you think that the media would act different?
To me, the situation in China is even more egregious. Hunter Biden rides to China with his father on Air Force Two, and 3 days later, he gets $1 billion from the Chinese government, not from some private concern, and then they send another 400,000. So that's $1.4 billion for a guy who can't manage his own affairs.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the most egregious payoff I've seen.
Now, I want to ask one final question here, because you've been gracious with your time today, and thank you so much. What does Donald Trump have to do to get reelected in 2020?
Keep his promise, and he's doing that. We see it. 6 million new jobs, wage growth at the fastest pace in American history, 650,000 new manufacturing jobs, fighting the Democrats to seal our borders and give us an immigration system that stops rewarding those who come here illegally and cheats the people who are trying to come here for the promise of America. This president is keeping his promises, and that is what will get him reelected.
Matt, it's interesting because you were talking about all of the corruption that includes Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, but nobody wants to talk about the corruption surrounding those two, even though it's very suspicious and very widespread. Nancy Pelosi has come out now and said that she would like to limit the president's pardoning abilities. Now, this wasn't a pardon. He commuted the sentence, but it has made Nancy Pelosi completely crazy that this happened. She can't stand it. She says this is corrupt. This is the worst possible thing. But seems like other presidents have done similar things, have pardoned similar people. Actually, I would say even some worse people, wouldn't you say, Matt?
Oh, absolutely. And Tudor, I think you've hit on something here that just clicked in my brain because, look, the Democrats don't want to talk about Joe Biden. So what are they going to do? They're going to keep distracting you. And how they distract you is that they're upset about what's going on. They're upset about what President Trump is doing. Now, presidents pardon people. Happens all the time. We've got a graphic we're going to put up here in a minute. But, you know, this is a power of the executive branch. There it is. Let's throw that up there. Because, you know, the left has lost their minds, Tudor. And if you look at commutations by president, there's a big number underneath one president there. And it seems like it's out of place, but it's not, Tudor. And, you know, the amazing thing about all of this, we heard nothing about former President Barack Obama commuting any sentences when he commuted when he pardoned Bradley Manning, first off, or James Cartwright, who did the exact, he pardoned James Cartwright, who did the exact same thing as Michael Flynn. But when President Trump acts like the president, the left hates it. They're trying to distract you, Tudor. They need to distract you because they know what's going on with Joe Biden. They know that Joe Biden is eyeballs deep with the Logan Act and Michael Flynn and the Susan Rice email to herself and the Peter Strzok notes that we know. And now we're seeing that Hillary Clinton was privy to the whole Christopher Steele dossier. We know that there's fire where there's smoke. So what do? They come out and they attack President Trump for commuting the sentence of Roger Stone. Now, what did Roger Stone do, Tudor? He lied to a committee in Congress. That's it. He committed perjury, right? No different than James Cartwright. No different than Susan Rice under oath, James Clapper under oath, John Brennan under oath, Peter Strzok under oath. But none of those people are in jail. Why? Because they're Democrats. They were in the intelligence agency for Barack Obama. Roger Stone is a distraction from a false precedence of a Russian investigation that was a hoax that they don't want you understanding what's going on, and that's the biggest cover-up of any administration in the history of this country, Tudor.
Well, and the president makes the point that this occurred, and the White House made the point that this commutation occurred because he was in an investigation that has now been proven there was no reason to begin the investigation. So this is, of course, the Democrats hitting back against this because they know that the reason this even occurred, there was nothing kosher about this. This was not okay that they had called him in. But when you think about the way he was arrested, the whole thing has been just such a show from the beginning. They had CNN at his door. They had, 20 FBI agents pounding down the door, scaring his wife in the middle of the night. Well, just so happens CNN is in his neighborhood right at the front door. This was a targeted attack against a man who is nearly 70 years old at the time, and they go after him in such a way where they could have easily said to him, we want you to come in, contacted his attorney, but they chose not to. They chose to just make this a really big deal, and the president says, I don't want to risk his life and put him in jail with coronavirus going on when this really is not something that he should have even been investigated on in the first place. He shouldn't have been asked these questions in the first place. And you would have the left in any other case saying, We don't want more people in jail. Here we have California letting people out of jail. We have them saying, let's put this man in jail for almost 4 years. It's worth the taxpayers' dollars to put this man in jail because he lied in a committee in Congress. I think the president thinks it's silly, but Nancy Pelosi says it's a threat to our national security. We have her saying that. I want to play that for you now so you can hear it for yourself. Nancy Pelosi.
It's staggering corruption, but I think it's important for people also to know that it's a threat to our national security. The whole impeachment process was about our national security. Why we are at the Supreme Court on these cases was to find out about the Russian connection, and we will continue to pursue that.
The whole impeachment process was about the fact that a man who did very corrupt things should have been investigated by an administration. President Trump was the administration there that was able to look into what Joe Biden was doing and why his family members were taking billions of dollars home. Every one of his family members benefited from him being vice president, but Hunter Biden especially, this was a very corrupt situation. And the Democrats, maybe Matt, they've always known that he would be the Manchurian candidate, that he would be the man they want to control. And they needed to make sure that the path was clear, that nobody was going to threaten them with Hunter Biden. And they thought they could impeach the president and get rid of him. And then they could just have Joe walk in and say, Susan Rice, don't worry. Obama, don't worry. James Comey, don't worry. Everybody, I've got this. You're all safe. I've saved you all. But I just don't think that the Trump administration is just going to let that happen. That investigation on the Republican side is ongoing. When will that all come out? It's going to be released at the best possible time for this president, I assure you. And what's going to happen is that Hunter Biden is going to come out looking like a snake, and Joe Biden is very highly connected to that, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely, Tudor. And what you missed out of that Dana Bash interview is Dana Bash literally asked Nancy Pelosi point blank, is this an impeachable offense? And I told you last week, Tudor, well, actually Friday night. I texted you Friday night. And I said, Tudor, Trump just commuted Stone's sentence. And you're like, okay. I'm like, you wait and watch. This is going to lead to impeachment. And what does Dana Bash say? Oh, well, is this an impeachable offense? You know why? They need to do this to cover up about the president commuting Roger Stone's sentence. Listen to this.
Morning, Stone was convicted in part for false statements he made to your committee. What's your response to the president?
I think anyone who cares about the rule of law in this country is nauseated by the fact that the president has commuted the sentence of someone who willfully lied to Congress, covered up for the president, intimidated witnesses, obstructed the investigation. It shouldn't matter whether you're a Democrat.
Doesn't stick. We cooked a half a dozen eggs, bacon, cheese, and tomato breakfast with no butter or oil, and it just doesn't stick. Look, caramels, chocolate, and cheese. Unreal for any other pan, but not for Granite Stone. It just doesn't stick. Granite Stone will be the last pan you'll ever need because it's pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction, then coated 3 times with our durable Granite Stone finish. Granite Stone is metal utensil safe and won't scratch. And talk about non-stick. This salmon cooked skin side down with no added butter or oil just doesn't stick. This steak is perfectly seared just like the pros. And because Granite Stone is oven rated to 500 degrees, we bake this upside down pan pizza to perfection, and it just doesn't stick. Fire Flambe Delicious Cherries Jubilee. Plus it's PFOA free and 100% dishwasher safe. Call or go online to get your Granite Stone pan for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. Granite Stone is so durable it comes with a 10-year warranty. And with every order, you're going to get a Granite Stone single-serve egg pan absolutely free. It's the perfect size for personalized eggs, omelets, or frittatas that slide right out. It makes the best bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich quick. Yours absolutely free. We'll even ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. You get it all, an incredible value. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-850-0237. That's 1-800-850-0237, or order online at buygranitestone.com. That's 1-800-850-0237. Call now.
Frustrated with heavy rubber hoses that always get tangled and easily kink? Introducing the Bionic Flex Pro hose, the super strong, super tough hose that's ultra light as well. Run over an ordinary hose and it'll easily burst, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose stays intact no matter what runs over it, because its reinforced drag-resistant commercial-grade outer polyester weave makes it tougher and stronger than ever. And its solid brass fittings are crush-proof too. Ordinary hoses kink easily and stop working, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose never kinks. It just keeps flowing strong. And while regular hoses easily get tangled, the Bionic Flex Pro hose is tangle-proof. You can get the 25-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose for just $19.95 with free shipping. But wait, order today and we'll upgrade your order to a 50-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose. Just pay a separate fee, and shipping is still free. Go now.
Call 1-800-313-8062.
Well, welcome back to America's Voice Live alongside Tudor Dixon. I am Matt Locke, and we've got our very own America's Voice News, Miranda Kahn. She's in our West Palm Beach studio. Miranda, what you got going on for us?
Well, we're going to talk about something that a lot of the mainstream media outlets are not talking about, and that is mental health. They are obsessed with just these COVID-19 cases, but they're not really focusing on the impact those cases are having on mental health. But we here at America's Voice, we hear you. We've been telling you to join our community on our website, to go to all of our social media platforms, whether that be Facebook, again, Twitter, we're on Parlay, we're on CloudHub, you name it, we're there. And we want you to know that we do pay attention to your comments. We hear you, and we understand that a lot of you are dealing with anxiety and depression, but we're here to help you get through that. And joining me now to help you do that is my co-host with Real Convo, Alan Bennick.
It's great to see you in person.
Great to see you in person.
I think it's the first time in a while.
I know, right?
I know, it's great.
I love it. I love it. So we talked about this last week. A lot of mainstream media outlets, they just keep talking about the number of cases that are rising when it comes to COVID-19. Of course, that can have a very negative impact on someone's mental health. Yep. And sometimes it's not always an accurate depiction of what's actually going on if you don't break down those numbers and put everything into perspective. But we know this is taking a huge toll on a lot of people when it comes to, again, your anxiety, your depression. We've had a few people that died by suicide over the weekend. A gentleman known as Captain America, veteran.
Yes.
Died over the weekend. Elvis Presley's grandson also took his life. And then, sadly, a 10-year-old girl in Wisconsin, and this just breaks my heart, died by suicide because she wasn't able to have that social interaction that a lot of kids need. You know, Kellyanne Conway talked about it, you know, a few weeks ago of how important it is for, you know, kids to interact with other kids. They need that. So this is really difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, in that case, from what I read, it sounded like she was going to school. She just became friends with some, and then they took her out of school for COVID, and at that point, she lost contact with them. So it is really important right now for a couple of things, especially for children, to understand that there needs to be some kind of interaction with other kids.
Right.
And whether it's Zoom, whether it's on the phone, it's really important. And, you know, again, with school system coming up in a couple of months and not knowing if they're going to be doing it virtual or in person, we got to get ready for that too.
Yeah, and I know, you know, I know a lot about you, but I know our viewers don't know a lot about you yet, but you are actually trained in suicide prevention. You deal with this all the time. You talk to various organizations, businesses. Yeah. A lot of employers are worried that they're going to be able to keep their business. They're also worried about their employees because maybe they can't come back to work. Maybe it's because it's COVID-19 related, or maybe you know, it's because they have to take care of their kids because they don't have childcare.
Yeah. So now in this type of world right now, you know, anytime there is a crisis, whether it's war or anything else, we always got to adapt. We always got to figure a way to overcome it. Right now, it's basically the isolation. And we talk about the isolation as being physical, not mental. So we want to make sure that we have that connection there. We gotta figure out different ways to adapt. I was telling you a story before about my friend and how she is doing a family movie now. Yeah. And they're in, she's down here in Delaware, in Florida.
And Florida.
And her partner is up in New Jersey, and then one of the children are in California.
Right.
And they have a movie night on Zoom.
Yeah.
So that's a way that they're overcoming the isolation.
But one of the things we want to talk about is, and I say this, but I'm in the media, but I've actually been telling people to be careful about how much news consumption you and your family take in. Because a lot of it can come across, not here on this network, of course, but but can really take a toll on your mental health when you just hear COVID cases, rising, and it's so much of it can be negative.
Yeah. So, and again, the human culture, it's easier to go negative than it is positive.
Explain that though, because a lot of people say, yeah, that makes sense. That's common sense.
Okay. As I explained to you before, let's talk about the physical aspect of it.
Okay, let's do it.
So, you don't do anything. You just eat and eat and eat. You don't exercise. You don't do anything. How easy is it to start gaining weight?
Right.
But how hard is it to really start working out and eating right and focusing on really trying to concentrate on your physical health? Right. It's a lot tougher to do it that way. It's the same thing with the mental aspect of it, and we try to compare mental aspect with physical. It's the same thing. So you got to work on it. So when the first thing you ever think about, it's easier to think negative than it is positive.
Just a fact.
It's just a fact.
So so if you're watching at home, no, it's not just you. We all do that.
Right.
Right.
So you really got to focus in on the positive thoughts.
So how do we do that though? Because that's so hard for people to do right now.
Well, again, one of my friends, another friend on Facebook, posted something about her daughter concerned about the rise in Florida of the COVID cases.
Right.
So what she did was she said, hold on, let me take a look at the numbers. Mm-hmm. And she actually analyzed the numbers, and numbers showed that, I guess I'm not going to get the exact numbers, but 143,000 people were tested, and this many were diagnosed with it, but the percentage was actually lower.
And I've said that to a lot of people, like bear that in mind, we're doing a lot more testing here in Florida than we ever have been doing. But you need to compare it. It's the percentage of people that are actually testing positive in comparison to how many tests were actually performed. That sounds very complicated, don't mean it to be, but that's a way of seeing the positive side of things.
Right. The other thing is, we talk about living in the now.
Right.
Don't look towards the future. Again, we don't know when this is going to end. We know it's going to end. We know there'll be a vaccine that comes out. Something's going to happen. But we got to live in the now. We got to figure out what we could do right now for our mental health.
So what are some good things that we can do? Good practices.
Obviously, exercise. Trying to keep as normal as possible.
Yeah.
So you wake up in the morning. You wake up at the same time you always did. Work out.
Keep that routine.
Try to keep the routine as much as possible.
It's hard.
As much as possible. Obviously, you got to adapt. There are things that we do to adapt now. Zoom is a great tool, and I bet you right now more people are connecting with their loved ones than they ever did before.
You're so right about that, because they're talking to people they haven't talked to in a long time. So focus on that. What about journaling? Because one thing that I used to do, and I kind of got in the habit of doing that, but I started kind of doing it again, is finding, whether I write it down or just saying it out loud, 3 things that I'm grateful for that happened that day.
Yeah.
I find that to be like a good paradigm shift, because we're naturally inclined to look for what went wrong that day.
So I believe everybody's got to do what they feel most comfortable with.
Okay.
You can't really force it. So if you're good with that, that's great. I'm
not saying everybody's like that.
Right. But I'm just saying that's a great idea. But again, connect. Think of new ideas of how to do your business. Mm-hmm. Again, my business, I always used to like going in front of people.
Right.
Now I use Zoom. It's a great tool. There are other ways to do it. I could reach more people now to my clients than I could before by driving places. So it's actually more beneficial to me. There are different things you could do right now. Spend more time with the kids. It's a great opportunity for the kids right now.
Though, and I do feel for a lot of parents that are like, actually, I'd like to spend less time with my kids because they're trying to work. A lot of them are trying to work from home, and there's no childcare available, and then a lot of these kids can't play with their friends, and that's a lot for parents to take on.
Yes.
And we've been getting people that have been posting things like that on our social media pages saying, it's taking a huge toll on me, on my kids, you know?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And again, there has to be some kind of outlet. You know, they could still go outside, they could still run around, they could still do certain things. I do see that sports, I guess, are starting up. So, you know, I know some people that are involved with sports, that's a good thing. But again, try to figure out some kind of activity, whether it's a workout, whether it's just reading more, whether it's trying to figure out, you know, with my son right now, I'm trying to tell him, look, let's go in the garage and let's do some woodworking, and maybe you could create something and form a business out of it.
So what do you do though, also, we only have a couple minutes remaining, but what do you do if you notice that someone you care about is maybe not acting the way he or she normally does? Maybe that person's more anxious or more depressed. What do you recommend that someone should do?
So again, people now are contacting each other more, they're talking more. Listening more is more important. Hearing the ups and downs in their voices. See what they're doing. Ask them, what have you done today? If they're lying around all day, you know, you get a little concerned about that. You know, if you find out they drink a little more, get a little concerned. If they are, obviously there's places out there you could help them. Obviously we talked about the crisis hotline, which is 1-800-273-TALK. And for the younger folks that like to text, it's 741-741 to text it.
Yeah. And I want to remind everyone too that on our realconvo.com website, we actually have a list of organizations that can help you. And I highly encourage you to utilize that list if you are in help, or if you are in need of help, or if you think someone may have a substance abuse issue or maybe suicidal. You can find that list. It's a great resource. We talked about it last time. We talked about Prevents. I also want to recommend that people check that out.
Absolutely.
So Prevents, again, for people who are not aware of it. We only got a few seconds.
So the Prevents is a task force that was started by the president to end suicide. It's starting with the veterans, which a lot of things start with the veterans and work their way down from there.
Right.
But it's a first time that the government actually put something together to help with the mental health of this country.
Right. And I encourage all of you to check that out, especially on their Facebook page. Alan, so good to see you.
You too.
And to have this human connection again. All right, we now want to hand it back over to Matt and Tudor. Hope that was helpful for all of you.
Thank you, Miranda. Yes, very much so. So appreciate that. Coming up in the final hour of America's Voice Live, the coronavirus, Tudor. And we're going to talk about Goya and liberals and boycotts and how they don't work. Don't go anywhere. America's Voice Live. Got one more hour left. Stick around.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this.
Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing. To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something.
If you can find something to help you get back out and be active like Copperfit, go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up.
A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with Copperfit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
Copperfit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
Copperfit, live limitless.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your flip-up tack glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-284-4127 or go to flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127 or order online at flipupglasses.com.
Welcome back to America's Voice Live. I'm Tudor Dixon alongside Matt Locke. Matt, earlier today, you and I were talking and you were saying you are thinking that we are going to be locked down soon, that you're feeling the rumblings, you're hearing the rumblings of that in Texas. Well, while Miranda was on, I just got breaking news that California is shutting down. So Gavin Newsom tweeted out that there are 30 counties that will be required to close indoor operations, fitness centers, places of worship, personal care centers, hair salons and barbershops, and malls, and all bar operations will cease. So that's what's happening in 30 counties in California. You say that you think that may be happening in Texas. We also know that Florida is seeing increased cases, and their death rates have increased. Now, the mortality rate, I don't think, has increased. I keep seeing articles saying we're expecting a big surge in deaths this week based on the fact that the cases had been surging for a couple of weeks and the deaths seem to lag behind by a couple of weeks. So this week will be very critical for us to watch those numbers and to see if in these states like California, Florida, and Texas, if we do see those deaths rising. Right now, I haven't seen anybody saying that they're rising to a critical level where we have the situation where we don't have the PPE or the medical equipment to take care of them, or the hospital space to take care of them. But any rise in deaths is obviously of great concern. So we do see California shutting down. Matt, what's your response to that?
You know, I don't know. And you're right, Tudor. You and I did have this conversation today, and I'm talking to a lot of people here in the state of Texas, and I am hearing rumblings of a second shutdown, of hot spots, of trying to combat this virus. And you and I also had the very same conversation on the phone. Where did the flu go? Where did the common cold go? Is anybody dying of a heart attack or diabetes or any other underlying condition? But while you were talking there, Tudor, I just pulled up the CDC website, and they post all of their new deaths at 4 o'clock about 5 minutes ago, 2-3 minutes ago. So as of today, today's death toll, 312. 312 total deaths today. Now, I don't know if you remember or not, it spiked the last few days. We had somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 to 900 deaths per day for the last 2 or 3 days. But I'm going to ask the question, the logical question, Tudor. So I'm out yesterday, my wife and I, we bought this new house, we're shopping, I'm getting shelving, I'm out doing things, and I got an alert on my phone from CNN. And it said, most ever coronavirus cases ever reported in America at like 15,000. How many people are recovering? How many people have died from it? What's the mortality rate? Who's getting the coronavirus? And the only other question I have, and we're supposed to have a doctor on tomorrow, and I hope that's the case, because I want to leave you with a thought. I've been told by doctors, and I've done the research, on my own over the last several months. There's a reason there's a flu season, right? The flu is a virus. It does not live outside of the body at certain temperatures. So, Tudor, where are we seeing the uptick in cases? Florida, Texas, Arizona. You just said California is going back on lockdown in some counties. How is the coronavirus, I'll give you an example here today. Today in Fort Worth, Texas, it's going to be 100 degrees. So when I go outside and if I've got the coronavirus and I cough, does that virus not die instantly? Is it not vaporized in 100-degree heat? I'm not understanding how this coronavirus is now transmitted in Arizona, Texas, California, Florida, if the common flu virus can't live in a temperature over 65 degrees Fahrenheit. How is the coronavirus living in temperatures that are 100 degrees Fahrenheit? This lacks all kinds of scientific method, and I want to get that question answered because, quite frankly, I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because we see that cases are increasing, and you're talking about the highest number of cases ever, but you have to remember that we were not testing young people when this first started because you had to have come in contact and you had to prove. Here in Michigan, you had to prove, you had to give them the name of the person you came in contact with. They would check, and then you had to be over a certain age as well. So you had to be over 60 in Michigan when this first started. So in March into April, you had to be over 60. You also had to give them the name of the person you had come in contact with, and then you could maybe be tested based on that criteria. There were all these firewalls up that you had to get through to actually be tested. So if you were under 60, you were just out. You weren't getting tested at all. And we had come home from CPAC. You were grossly ill, and we knew that somebody at CPAC had been exposed. And I was home for a week, and I had a daughter who was just coughing like crazy. Now, my parents are in their 70s, and I called the COVID line, and I said, listen, my daughter's really sick. She has a fever. She's been coughing. I was at CPAC where there was a person there. I'm concerned that maybe I exposed her. Yeah, no, you're not getting tested. Well, she's only 7 years old. I said, but she's with my parents every day. They're 7. Doesn't matter. She's not getting tested. We're not doing that. But interestingly, it's all of these young people now that are getting it. And in a case of true confessions, I will tell you something that a few years ago, all 4 of my daughters one day end up with head lice. Okay, gross story. I admit there's a stigma involved in it, but it happened. I went to the hairdresser and I said, how did this happen? And she said, you would not believe the cases of head lice we see in people that are like from 14 to 25. She said head lice is majorly back, and she said, can you guess why? I have no idea why. It's totally gross. I can't stand it. She said, think about all the selfies. Everybody puts their heads together. And so you have to think about the fact that all of these young people are so used to having their faces touch each other, to constantly being together. And I'm just wondering if all these TikTok videos and everything of everybody being together and touching hands and touching faces and selfies is because it's the younger group that is getting it. It's the people in their 20s that have the highest numbers right now. And all of the government officials would tell you it's the people in their 20s. They're concerned, and the reason they want to start shutting down again is because those people are in contact then with the people in their 70s and older, and they're concerned about those folks. But here we have all these younger people, so are we going to end up with herd immunity?
Well, and that's the question, Tudor. And we talk to scientists and doctors, and we try to get these answers for you. But what we do know is that what you just said is true. The younger generation is getting this. Heck, they're having parties to see who can get it first and win money and all that stuff. Now, the really nice thing about this, if you want to get a silver lining to this story, is that most of these youngsters, they're asymptomatic. They don't even know they have it. So as they're getting these tests and they're testing positive, the nice thing is they're making antibodies. That's what happens in the human body. So the flu isn't eradicated, Tudor. Even though there's a vaccine for the flu, people still get the flu. My wife gets the flu vaccine every year. I don't. I don't need it. I've had the flu once in 10 years. I'll get sick. I'll brave my way through it, and away you go. But the flu vaccine isn't 100%, and neither will be the coronavirus. So my question of all of this is, why are we treating one virus different than the other? And I had a very interesting conversation this weekend. I was having brunch at a restaurant of a gentleman I know, and we were having a very nice conversation. And I'm not going to mention it because they would probably boycott his restaurant and everything else because he's actually conservative. But, he said, look, the coronavirus is going to go away on November 4th. It'll just be gone. you won't hear any more about it. And the funny thing about all this, Tudor, is he's right. This is a political ploy. Do I believe that people are getting the coronavirus? Yes. Do I believe that they may get sick, maybe under the weather for a while? Yes. Do I believe that people are dying from it? Yes. I saw a story today of the teacher lady out in, I believe, Arizona, who she was student teaching in class over the summer, contracted the coronavirus and died. Now, I thought, wow, that's crazy, because you wouldn't think teachers would get it from students because they're talking about not having kids go back to school. LA's like, no, we're not reopening classes this coming fall. So as I read the article, Tudor, in about the 9th paragraph, the teacher had lupus, asthma, and diabetes, and got the coronavirus and died. See, we don't hear those stories, and it's a terrible story, by the way. You don't want to see anybody die, but people die from the flu every day. People die from pneumonia. People die from the average cough. They die in car wrecks. They die of heart disease. They die of diabetes. We've had our young lady Marissa on, who has lupus. It's a struggle every day for her to make sure that she social distance. It's a reality we have, but Tudor, I just don't. I can't wrap my mind around something that is as common as the flu that we're going to change our entire lives for because we've been fear-mongered by a mainstream media that tells you that we have to shut down our life because we might die of the flu. It just drives me crazy.
Well, what is the answer going forward? I mean, perhaps you're right. Maybe on November 4th, this will completely go away. But here we have the younger generation who seems to be getting it now. I wish we had these statistics, but it seems as though the younger generation, the folks in their 20s, are the ones who are saying everybody has to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask. And we keep seeing these younger people posting, you've got to wear a mask. But the mask doesn't seem to be helping them. Now, obviously, if you're having a COVID party and you're trying to lick the germs into your body, then you're not being protected. But you have these masks, people are wearing them everywhere, but I don't think that we've been told exactly how to wear a mask. People are not used to wearing a mask. They're wearing the same mask over and over again, throwing it in their purse, their hands are touching it. How is that protecting other people? You've got these N95 masks that have a valve. Well, the valve opens up for you to breathe out. So then is your breath and those droplets coming out of the N95 mask? Are you protecting people? I don't think we know enough about what the requirements are for a mask right now to make sure that we're keeping people safe. Hopefully they will come out and say that, but I think they just want to keep us under control and make sure we are wearing our masks like good little citizens. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more on America's Voice Live.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. MicroTouch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro-precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full-body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go solo. Call 1-800-709-9777 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new MicroTouch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.
I sent your new prescription to the pharmacy. Any idea how much it will cost? You have a choice. Insurance or GoodRx? I have insurance. Insurance is not what it used to be. People struggle to get their prescriptions covered, and prices keep rising. I recommend GoodRx. You get free coupons to save on your prescriptions. Compare prices to find the best discounts.
GoodRx. Smart.
Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
My son needs this drug. I hope it doesn't cost too much. I hope my insurance pays for it.
Can you tell me how much this will be?
67.
Sorry. Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx finds free coupons to help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions.
Wow. I had no idea.
GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
Well, welcome back to America's Voice Live alongside of Tudor Dixon. I am Matt Locke, and you should hear the discussions we have during the break. I think they might be better than the actual show. But we're going to talk. Tudor, you were talking about masks. And you know how I feel about masks. This is kind of right up my alley. And the funny thing you said is I wear a mask now. My wife has hog-tied me, and if I got to go into anywhere, I got to wear a mask. The problem is I don't wear it right. So it's down below my nose, and I can't breathe and all that stuff, but I wear the same mask, so that's probably not good. But I want to get a cool mask like President Donald Trump wore. Check this out. I mean, the dude looks bad. I mean, look at that. I mean, I might, if I had a mask like that, I might wear it everywhere, just to be honest. But so
maybe I'll see if I can get you one.
Let's talk about this, because you said this, and the left, I find the conversation around this interesting. Because first of all, President Trump was at Walter Reed Medical Facility wearing this mask. People are sick there. When you go to a hospital, there's all kinds of things floating around. I mean, that is just the honest fact. So to have the president wear a mask there, I'm not surprised. I would wear a mask in the hospital, I think, because there's all kinds of gross things floating around with what's going on today. Now, Tudor, what I find surprising is the blowback that the mainstream media gave the president. They literally called it a photo op. They said it was being done on purpose, and I'm thinking to myself, here are people who have spent the last 2 months berating the president because he wasn't wearing a doggone mask, right? Oh, Trump's here, Trump's there. Your Michigan, I think, Attorney General or Secretary of State, I don't remember which, said, Trump isn't welcome back in Michigan. Thank you. Isn't welcome back in Michigan because he didn't wear a mask. And now that he wears a mask, that doesn't make the media happy either. The dude can't win, right?
No, you can't wear a mask now, because now you're just pandering, I guess, if you wear a mask. But maybe a lot of people now I hear saying, well, don't you think he should have been wearing a mask from the beginning? So you're right. No matter what he does, it doesn't matter. And I go back to the fact that we have this mask mandate with zero rules about or understanding of what a mask is. So when I walk into our Walmart here, there is a greeter there at the front who is greeting everybody. Hello, how are you? She has this, I would say it's a see-through scarf thing that attaches to her glasses and just hangs. It doesn't even come to her mouth, it just hangs. And I'm like, what? What is that doing? I'm not sure I can actually see your mouth, first of all, and secondly, it just floats back and forth when you talk. I don't think that's doing anything. So what are the rules on masks? And then my daughter, I told you what a pain it is. We get to the grocery store, and my daughter looks at my other daughter, and she goes, oh no, I told Mom I had my mask, but I don't have my mask. What? You don't have your mask? It's like this huge stress now. I'm like, we're going to have to turn around. So my older daughter has an extra mask, but it's a little big. The entire time we're in the grocery store, the younger one is holding her mask to her face. And I said, just let it fall. It's fine. You just have to have the mask on. The requirement is just that you have the mask on. If it's falling down a little bit, it's fine. She's like, she is terrified that she's going to be like picked up by the police in the grocery store. This is where we have our kids today. The media has frightened them so badly that she's afraid that the mask falls slightly down on her nose a little bit, that someone's going to come and arrest her. I mean, this is where we are. No explanation of what a mask has to be, where it has to, one of the girls I was talking to this morning said, I'm just thinking of putting it in my ponytail because they just said I have to have a mask, right? It's not in Governor Whitmer's order exactly where you wear the mask, exactly what the mask is supposed to do, or what kind of mask you're supposed to wear. But yeah, the president comes out wearing a mask, and now nobody's happy, even though all we've heard about was the fact that the president needed to wear a mask.
Well, I wear mine like a chin strap, if you want to be honest. So, I mean, I don't have a ponytail or anything, but you're right, and I'm like the opposite of your daughter. I don't care. But, you make a great point, Tudor, because we're talking about mask etiquette now. How do you wear your mask? Do you wear it all the way up on your nose? Do you wear it halfway up your nose? Do you wear it all the way to your eyeballs? I mean, does it have to be behind your ears? Does it have to cover your chin? What if you have a beard? I mean, I see these guys with a beard, they put this mask on, and it literally is just sticking out the bottom because they got this big beard. So, I mean, we're literally crazy. But you said something very interesting. The mainstream media has done a very good job of scaring the public into believing that if you're not wearing a mask, you're going to die. Now, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, that we've been talking about here, who supposedly had this big spike in cases and all of that stuff. I think we've got a little deal with Ron DeSantis here. He was on the Rush Limbaugh show. And he told Rush, he said, okay, he told Rush, I'll paraphrase for you because I listened to it. He said, look, the media has propagandized and fear-mongered the public into believing that if they get the coronavirus, for one, they're dead, which is it's frankly not true. And number two, they've scared the people that, in Tudor, I call these people the Facebook news people, because I know a lot of people who get their news from social media. Don't stop doing that, please. If you get I'm going to say right now, little public service announcement here on America's Voice Live, Tudor. If you get your news from Twitter, Facebook, Parler, I don't know, Cloud Hub, all of the social media, stop. Stop today. It's not news. It's not based in any news. You're randomly pulling graphics and numbers and stuff that makes zero sense from both left and right bots, Tudor, that have 3 followers. I mean, you see it all the time. I see these accounts on Twitter. Let's take, for example, Twitter. I see accounts that have been on Twitter for 5 years. Let's say they started in 14 or 15, who for 5 years have 5 followers. I mean, I had 5 followers, my mom, my dad, my grandma, my daughter, and my wife in the first 2 minutes. If you can't get past 5 followers, you're a bot. I'm sorry. If you've been on Twitter for 6 years and have 5 followers, you're a bot. You should ignore everything they put out because more times than not, it's garbage. It's worthless. It's propaganda. But Tudor, that's the thing. The mainstream media and the Democrat Party have done a very good job of manipulating the people I just said into believing that's real news. And then when you do put real news up on these websites, up on these social media, what do, Tudor? They come in and censor the real news. They fact check it because how dare you tell the real news? And that goes for Google. That goes for the big tech companies and all that stuff. So we have been literally scared or propagandized into believing everything that we read on a social media platform. Stop doing that. Now, secondly, Tudor, now that I've got my PSA out of the way, I want to switch gears. Minnesota, okay? So the governor of Minnesota and the mayor of Minneapolis allow the Black Lives Matter movement, which you've already talked about, which is not for Black Lives, to riot, loot, protest the city of Minneapolis and burn the doggone place to the ground. Over $500 million in disaster repair, right? So the governor files for disaster relief And Tudor, I don't know how you feel about this, but President Trump says go take a hike. What say you?
It's a tough situation because you have a governor who knew this was happening, knew that it could have prevented this destruction. This was preventable. The president came to him and offered active duty troops. Waltz refused. Absolutely no. You have the mayor, Jacob Frey, who is trashing the president while the city is burning. Literally trashing the president while the city is burning. The governor is holding up his hand saying, don't you dare come into this state. Let them do this. Let these people riot. Let these people burn my citizens' businesses down. And so now ultimately, these innocent citizens, they suffer because the president doesn't want to go in and say, yeah, every time you don't protect your citizens, then I'll come in and give you a big bucket of cash to clean up the mess. And I agree with that because I think that at a certain point, these Democrat governors who allow this to continue and support this movement that is a communist movement that has nothing to do with protecting black men or black fathers, and they've proven that because it's literally on their website that they don't acknowledge the fact that they look out for black men. They look out for globalism and taking care of transgender people. This is a movement that is very dangerous. But they came into Minnesota and the governor welcomed them with open arms. Here are our poorest neighborhoods. Do your worst. President Trump, stay out. You know what, President Trump? All those businesses, they got really trashed. In fact, it's $500 million worth of damage. Come on, send us the money. No, you knew this was going to happen. You knew this was going to happen. What are you going to do now? But Matt, it's a serious situation because what is the answer? They can't raise taxes on people that don't have any money. So what happens to these businesses? They're not in business. They can't operate. They can't have anybody in them. They've been burned to the ground in many cases. These are their only form of living, their only form of cash. I'll burn to the ground, but the governor let it happen. So what's the answer?
The answer is law and order, Tudor. The answer is law and order. There are laws. And you know what? If you're going to burn your city to the ground, and then you're going to go ask for federal disaster relief, and I'll say this real quick. All of the states loved it when President Trump shut down all the businesses for coronavirus. And then Trump tried to start the economy back up. Said, hey, states, you got to open up. No. 10th Amendment, states' rights. The federal government can't supersede. President Trump puts a hand out and says, hey, I can help you with your rioters, your looters, your protesters. No. Let it burn to the ground. And then when it burns to the ground, President Trump give us money. Guess what, Democrats? You can't have it both ways. All right, coming up next, we're going to welcome Dave Bratt to the program. We're going to talk about some international type stuff like maybe a presidential election in Poland. Don't go anywhere. America's Voice Live. Be right back.
If you suffer from foot pain, ankle pain, knee pain, hip pain, even lower back pain, if just standing causes aches, soreness, and fatigue, the problem could be your feet. When your feet are out of alignment, your entire body is out of alignment and you're in pain. Now you can change all of that. Today, introducing Superthotics, the doctor-designed breakthrough that solves the problem in your feet and relieves the pain throughout your entire body. It begins with the cushioned BioLock heel cup that holds your heel and ankle in perfect alignment. Next, metatarsal and longitudinal arch supports distribute the pressure of your body weight evenly across the entire foot.
Plus, these customizable inserts, which correct the angle at which your foot hits the ground, relieving your pain with every step you take.
Imagine being able to dance, walk, work, play golf, or just spend an afternoon shopping without the aches, pains, stiffness, and poor balance that rob you of your active life.
As a flight attendant, I spend a lot of time on my feet. The moment I put the Superthotics in, I could feel a huge difference. The pain in my knees went away, the pain in my feet went away. Not only am I wearing them for work, I'm wearing them all the time.
Imagine finally getting relief from painful problems like bunions, shin splints, corns, calluses, plantar fasciitis, and even stress fractures.
Doctor-prescribed orthotics can cost $600 to $800, but you won't pay anywhere near that for Superthotics when you call the number on your screen or go to superthotics.com. For a limited time, you'll get the manufacturer's direct price of just $39.95. Call now, and we'll also include, at no extra cost, our soothing peppermint lotion to help invigorate your feet. You will also get our luxurious comfort slippers designed with durable memory foam. You receive it all. Superthotics are not available in any store. Call or go to superthotics.com now.
Windshields are impossible to clean, and a dirty windshield can be downright dangerous. Introducing the Hurricane Windshield Wizard, the one tool that reaches and cleans for you. It uses the power of microfiber with a pivoting head to make cleaning windshields quick and easy. The specially designed ergonomic handle fills with tap water and dispenses at the touch of a button, so you can clean in seconds without straining. And it folds away for space-saving storage. Order now and get the Hurricane Windshield Wizard with free extra bonnet for just $19.99. But order now and you can double the offer. Plus, you can also get the Battle Visor, the visor that blocks the harsh glaring sun and keeps you safe on the road. Just pay a separate fee, and we'll ship everything to you for free. That means you can get all this and free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-474-7530 or visit getwindshieldwizard.com. So call 1-800-474-7530 now.
Welcome back to America's Voice Live. I'm Tudor Dixon alongside Matt Locke. And as Matt said before the break, we have Dave Bratt. He is the Dean of Business at Liberty University and a former congressman. Dave, welcome to the program.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So we want to talk to you about something that happened in Poland. The right-wing president was reelected. It was a narrow election there. He almost didn't get it, but he did get it. We know that he has been working with the president of the United States here. What does this mean for foreign policy here in the United States?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a referendum on the European Union and what used to be considered liberal economics and the liberal post-World War II, Bretton Woods order that did well for the first 40 or 50 years. But now I think it's just kind of a referendum on the establishment, right? The billionaire class through Brussels and the European Union has been making deals on behalf of the elites with the rest of the world, with trade and with China, et cetera. And the folks in the U.S. and abroad have caught on to that game. And so, I think the lesson here is folks are breaking away from the European Union and started with Brexit in England and all that kind of thing because European Union wasn't doing anything for the average person. It was great for the elites who got rich. And the liberals always forget that kind of discussion when it comes to income inequality. Just look in the U.S. if you want to look at income inequality. Look at Bezos and Amazon and Facebook and Twitter. They're all on the left, and no discussion of them when it comes to all of the racial issues we're having and inequality. No discussion of the leftist elites, and so the folks pick up on some of that. And in Poland, it looks like they had a reaction against it.
So, Dave, we know that the U.S. and Poland just signed a pact to boost American military over in that region. What would be the reasoning behind that? Why would we need more Americans over in Poland, or at least military-wise?
Yeah, well, we're trying to disengage. And so, if we have a new friend on the block, we'll see how that goes. But, the trajectory underneath Trump and America First has been to disengage, militarily, or at least make others pay their toll. And so we'll see what that looks like at the end of it. We still have, self-interest across the world on every continent. And China's been digging in with Belt and Road, buying UN votes. So we still have to stay competitive. And so we'll see how it plays out.
So if this does happen, you know, we've heard that this would be Fort Trump out there in Poland, but interestingly, this would, you know, we're also hearing that this is to protect Poland because they have security concerns over Russian activities in that area. And so does that kind of squash the left's narrative that the president continues to align himself with Putin when he continually shows that he's trying to protect others from Putin?
Yeah, I know. I don't know how long the left can maintain that meme, but no, that's right on the money. I mean, Trump's been harder on Russia than any other president. He's paid more attention to foreign policy. Obama was AWOL across the board. And Biden, I think everybody knows, is China Joe, and his son got $1 billion contract out of the deal. And so the problem is the average person is not aware of these things. And we got, 3 or 4 months, these kind of stories, hopefully they start outlining for the American people where our interests are. And China is our foremost adversary, right? The Soviet Union now has utterly collapsed to the size of Wisconsin in GDP. China's been growing, but they've been slowing, right? The red lights have been blinking in China. If you look at the China Beige Book, in the third quarter of 19. And so they're our opponent, but Russia sells better to the left. So they've been going after Ukraine Gate and Russia Gate and all that. There's no evidence, but they own the media, they own the ink, so it's a tough war.
So, Dave, I'd like to switch gears here because we're looking at stories today about education. Of course, you're the Dean of Business at Liberty University. Is this going to be the new normal that we've seen in the media now where kids are not going back to school? And with your unique experience, what does Liberty University look like in the fall?
First question, the new normal, I hope not, but the left, first of all, just ask yourself this question. How's American education doing overall? And the answer is terrible. The kids aren't trained that business is morally good. They're not trained to be technically competent by our K-12 system or the higher ed system across the board. Who's in charge of that? The left. Right? And so go look at the talking points of the teachers union, Weingarten, et cetera. They've come out this week and said that they're making sure that education policy is set on behalf of the teachers. And so you got to check your ears, right? Because you can't believe that. It's supposed to be for the kids, for your kids. But they're not looking out for the interests of your kids. The teachers union never does. So we're scoring, at the 40th rank in terms of country ranking. We should be number one based on how much we spend. But we're being beaten by certain Eastern European countries, right, that have way lower incomes per capita on math and science and everything. And so what in terms of the pandemic and at Liberty, we've been, as careful as anyone, but we're creative, and we've had a lead on the market there. We're best in class in online delivery systems since the 1970s. And that's our market. And so we've been able to maintain safety and deliver, excellent education online and in the classroom. So we're going to navigate that along with everyone. We're going to try to stay as open as possible. We have a commitment to the kids. And can you imagine the kids staying home for another year, K-12, that the parents can't work? The left is all in on this for some reason, and I think we know what the reasons are. It's just all political and all anti-Trump, and they're not thinking about the damage this wreaks havoc on the kids, losing educational years, not to mention mental health and all the other issues that go along with healthy family life when the folks can't make plans for the coming fall.
Yeah, something you said I think is so important for parents to know is that the union is for the teachers, not the students. As much as that seems like it should not be the case, the union works for the teachers. And so you see out in LA, they're making demands. They won't open up the schools. Now you see that they're not opening up in the fall. It'll all be remote learning, which my children are in public schools. And I have to tell you, Liberty may have a good online program. The public schools have no idea what they're doing. Our teachers are teaching 1 hour of the week on a Zoom Zoom call, and that's not enough for our kids. They're not learning. They're trying. You have 7-year-olds at home trying to do their own work, and parents that, yes, have to work, and you have teachers saying, don't put my life at risk. I'm not your child's babysitter. Well, heck no. I thought you were my child's teacher. But now you have LA coming out, and that teachers union is saying, until the police are defunded and the charter schools are shut down, we won't go back to work. I say, take my taxes and let me put my kid in a charter school. What do you say about that?
Well, I'm all in. That obviously is what has to happen, but the union is blocking that. The only good that's coming out the online piece is when the Ivy League has to put its course out there on a shell for parents to see. The parents are in many cases shocked to see all these studies courses, right? They're seeing what they're paying $70,000 for opinion pieces coming out of, Harvard-trained PhDs. They thought their kid was getting an outstanding education in core content areas, technology and all what they need to be competitive in the business world. And now they're seeing. So the good news is this pandemic has made education much more transparent. All the political ideology in K-12 is coming through. Yeah, and it's finally getting some air. And so the average person now is stuck because they can't do the private education. There is no voucher, and you're left with having to pay a double tax, right? You got to pay your property tax and then put your kid in private school, pay the bill there, which is not fair. But this is turning the ship around, I think. And so you raised the right point.
So Dave, we're at that point. We got about a minute left. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Yeah, no, just look, Liberty University, the Falkirk Center. Under Falkirk, go to the Brat Pack, right? BRATPAC. I've been interviewing a lot of political folks, intellectuals, think tank, but action think tank. We got a big event coming up in D.C. Top 20 China hawks in the country will be joining us to get those relationships right. And everybody should be studying China right now. Take a good look, because the rest of the world really matters right now.
Well, Dave Bratt, thank you so much. Former Congressman, Dean of Business over at Liberty University. We always enjoy having Dave on the program. He's always good. He never lets us down, Tudor. We can talk to him about everything, but I'll tell you, Tudor, you hit a very interesting point. We're watching, and you and I were talking about this at the break. We are going to watch cities in states start to take more property taxes because of the coronavirus, because they're not bringing in as much money. But that money is supposed to go to schools and education and the police force. So if we're going to defund the police and our kids aren't going to show up in school, where is our money really going, Tudor?
Well, that's why so many parents are saying, give me that money. Give me my money. I'm not saying I want it. Give me my money to either hire somebody to homeschool or to send my kids to private school, or to have some online academy where I can have a tutor in my house to help, because that's the situation that we're in now. And we have to have parents that are going to be able to go back to work. And this idea that we are beholden to the unions is completely insane. But this is what people are going to find out. And there's way more working people that need school for their kids than are going to say, wow, the unions, we really need to side with the unions. But interestingly, you will hear the presidential candidate Joe Biden saying, oh, he wants to strengthen the unions. That's a big part of his plan. He is majorly progressive here. He wants to strengthen these unions. And that'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the summer, when in the fall we have the unions controlling whether or not our kids go to school, which means a lot of parents will have to stay home. It'll be interesting to watch. Stay tuned. We'll be right back here on America's Voice Live with a lot more.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this. Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain, and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something.
If you can find something to help you get back out and be active, like CopperFit, go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up.
A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with CopperFit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
CopperFit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
CopperFit, live limitless.
Frustrated with heavy rubber hoses that always get tangled and easily kink? Introducing the Bionic Flex Pro hose, the super strong, super tough hose that's ultra light as well. Run over an ordinary hose and it'll easily burst, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose stays intact no matter what runs over it, because its reinforced drag-resistant commercial-grade outer polyester weave makes it tougher and stronger than ever. And its solid brass fittings are crush-proof too. Ordinary hoses kink easily and stop working, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose never kinks. It just keeps flowing strong. And while regular hoses easily get tangled, the Bionic Flex Pro hose is tangle-proof. You can get the 25-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose for just $19.95 with free shipping. But wait, order today and we'll upgrade your order to a 50-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose. Just pay a separate fee, and shipping is still free. Go now.
Call 1-800-313-8062.
Welcome back to America's Voice Live alongside Tudor Dixon. I am Matt Locke. Final segment here. We've reached the end of the show, and normally we might have a few fun things at the end. But, Tudor, there's just so many stories currently circulating around the news. And I know you and I talk pretty regularly. It seems like we cover the same thing over and over and over. And I have to tell you, we're seeing all of this violence come out of places like New York, Chicago. We talked about Minneapolis earlier, where, $500 million worth of damage by a group of people who rioted, who protested, who looted their very own communities. But just this weekend again, 15 people shot in a 15-hour period in New York City that you heard David Zier talk about, our very own David Zier. We talked about this earlier in the program. We've got violence on an uptick. We've got the calling of defunding the police from the liberal left. We're watching as the Squad, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who we have a little clip we're going to play here later, and Aisha Presley are all saying, abolish ICE, get rid of police. Let's do the things necessary to bring the money into our community. But Tudor, we're still seeing violence and killings. And you've hit on this a lot. I mean, you've championed this a lot. We've had little babies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to, 14, 15 years old. Children dying because of all of this violence. And you and I, we talk about it pretty consistently on this program. And it really saddens me that there really isn't an answer. Is there, Tudor?
No, we had a child in South Carolina over the weekend. We believe it was mom with the child. There was a shootout in the car. A black male dies in the car. The police found the male dead in the car. They went into the apartment. They find mom. She dies on her way to the hospital. And 6-month-old child shot in the arm. I mean, how is this happening that you end up with a 6-month-old child shot in the arm? And now parentless. Now mom is gone because somebody breaks into the apartment and shoots her. But yeah, we end up with 15 shootings in New York City in 15 hours. 64 people shot in Chicago over the weekend, 11 deaths. You see, again, 14-year-olds shot in Chicago over the weekend. This is now something that is happening every single weekend. We know in the summer months we see a lot more of this. But in the cases of Chicago and New York, we're seeing shootings that are rising by 150%, by in some areas almost 300% are rising in shootings. This is the no police. This is the situation where you take away police, but you have people in these communities, these women in these articles about the people being shot in Chicago. One mother lost her son in Chicago just this past weekend. She lost her son, I think he was 19 years old, but she buried her older son 3 months ago from also another murder, another shooting. She had 6 children. In 3 months' time, she's down to 4. She said, we look around and there are no police. There are no police to keep us safe. This is this woman. I mean, this is the reality of what these communities need, where we have these ignorant congresswomen like Ocasio-Cortez out there saying, oh, you got to get rid of the police. We can't have any police. In fact, she talks about it. Let's play what she had to say about this right now, and then we'll get back to this. Here's Alexandria.
So why is this uptick in crime happening? Well, let's think about it. Do we think this has to do with the fact that there's record unemployment in the United States right now? The fact that people are at a level of economic desperation that we have not seen since the Great Recession? Maybe this has to do with the fact that people aren't paying their rent and are scared to pay their rent. And so they go out and they need to feed their child and they don't have money. So you maybe they're put in a position where they feel like they either need to shoplift some bread or go hungry that night.
Not one of these shootings has been somebody going to the grocery store and shooting the clerk with a loaf of bread under their arm. That's not what's happening, and this is so misleading. It's just a lie. These people are trying to get out of paying their rent. I haven't heard of a rash of landlords being attacked and shot. The last time I checked, 14-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, they're not selling loaves of bread. They're not running landlord operations. They're not picking up your rent, Matt. What is she talking about? This is a woman who also came out and said, you know what it would be like if we took away all the police? If we took all the police away, it would be a suburb. That's what you would see. It would be a suburb, people. No. That is a lie. This is a sitting congresswoman who is lying to the American people. If you take the police out of downtown Chicago, these areas where you're having shootings every night, you are not going to end up with a suburb where people are flourishing. You are going to end up with more children dead. And as far as I'm concerned, she has blood on her hands by lying to the public, because these are children that are dying. And it makes me sick that any woman, whether you have children or not, could look the other way and say it would just be a suburb. Makes me crazy, obviously. I think it's sick. Matt?
Well, Tudor, and look, your passion's there, and it's correct. This woman is criminal. It is the policies of the Democrat Party and AOC that have created the very place we're at. She won't come out there and tell you that. She isn't going to come out and tell you that, because in the end, this is all a strategy, Tudor. The Democrat Party, if you've ever read Cloward and Piven, you should. If you haven't read it, you should. Cloward and Piven is a strategy. They were Marxist. Imagine that, Tudor. Marxism again. Communism, Karl Marx, the Black Lives Matter. I mean, it's not a coincidence that Cloward and Piven love Marxism. But Cloward and Piven came out and said, you've got to destroy the system. You've got to overwhelm the system so you can do what? So you can replace it. AOC knows exactly what AOC is doing. She knows exactly what the new progressive socialist Democrat Party's doing. They need people to suffer. They need the most vulnerable people of society to suffer. Because then what do, Tudor? They rise up and they ask their oh great government to do what? Change. Take care of me. Get me out of this situation. That who created? The government. The very Democrat Party, the very woman out there saying, oh, well, you know, there's record unemployment and they maybe just want to steal a loaf of bread. Well, the unemployment is because you guys pushed the coronavirus so hard that you about put America out of business. You want people to sit around and do nothing. You want a new normal. You want a new situation. You want a new system. And you want to be the one who run it. So you glorify in the fact that these vulnerable people are hurting. And all the while, Tudor, we're watching children. We're watching children suffer, shot, killed. I mean, and it has to break your heart. We played this last week. A little girl and her father walking down the street of New York in the middle of the day, and her father gets murdered in cold blood right in front of her. And the little girl runs because she doesn't know what to do. I mean, can you imagine? And that's the world we live in today because of Democrats and AOC and what they want to do with this country. And they don't like the fact that you still have a voice and you are still able to be responsible for yourself. So this is a strategy, Tudor. Defund the police, tear down the cities, tear down the vulnerable, and replace it with socialist utopia and the new Green Deal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If she can get that new Green Deal has very little to do with climate and very much to do with controlling people and getting into that young, she's reaching out to those young people who turn out are a lot different than us, Matt. In fact, I want to transition into something a little bit lighter because something with the young people today that is way different than us that I was not anticipating is that when they call on the phone, it's a little bit different. You got to watch this video. Okay, so what he's telling you right now is he's going to ask his wife, what is your sign, your international sign for making a phone call, which is the one I just did. But look at what his daughter shows you. What? Wait a minute. Look at what the son does. This is, he says, if you're making a phone call, what would you do? What? See, he's like, this is what we would do. This is what kids today do. I mean, Matt, they are not using the sign that we use. They go, this is the sign for making a phone call. What happened in the world?
Cell phones. Cell phone. It should be this. It should be this sign right here. It should be this, but it's not. You know, it's the deal. I mean, we're old. I mean, you know, you're on the phone. That or you're in the bottle. It's the one or the other.
No, we're so old. I said something about Oprah yesterday to my daughter, and she goes, "Who's Oprah?" And I was like, "I'm really old."
You are.
But that makes Oprah really old.
I mean, you are. I mean, you're cutting your hair by yourself, using L'Oreal products to color your own hair in the lockdown. I mean, you're kind of old, Tudor. I mean, I get it. I'm losing my hair. I'm old.
Gotta cover that gray. I'm gonna wash that gray right out. That's really making me old.
We're just not that cool anymore. See, we're just realizing that we're just not that cool. All right, that's it for Tudor Dixon, Matt Locke, America's Voice Live. We'll see you tomorrow.
Stay tuned to get a free pan from Granite Stone. Stuck on eggs, burnt on batter. You can scrub and scrape, but you can't escape the nightmare of your sticky pans. Introducing the Granite Stone Pan, the all-new durable non-stick pan. No butter or oil needed. Watch, we melted down these sticky candies in Granite Stone, and it just doesn't stick. We cooked a half a dozen eggs, bacon, cheese, and tomato breakfast with no butter or oil, and it just doesn't stick. Look, caramels, chocolate, and cheese. Unreal for any other pan, but not for Granite Stone. It just doesn't stick. Granite Stone will be the last pan you'll ever need because it's pressed from a solid aluminum disc for even heat conduction. Then coated 3 times with our durable Granite Stone finish. Granite Stone is metal utensil safe and won't scratch. And talk about non-stick. This salmon cooked skin side down with no added butter or oil just doesn't stick. This steak is perfectly seared just like the pros. And because Granite Stone is oven rated to 500 degrees, we bake this upside down pan pizza to perfection, and it just doesn't stick. Fire Flambe Delicious Cherries Jubilee. Plus, it's PFOA free and 100% dishwasher safe. Call or go online to get your Granite Stone pan for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. Granite Stone is so durable it comes with a 10-year warranty. And with every order, you're going to get a Granite Stone single-serve egg pan absolutely free. It's the perfect size for personalized eggs, omelets, or frittatas that slide right out. It makes the best bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich quick. Yours absolutely free. We'll even ship your entire order free. That's right, free shipping. You get it all, an incredible value. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-850-0237. That's 1-800-850-0237, or order online at buygranitestone.com. That's 1-800-850-0237. Call now.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your flip-up tack glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-284-4127 or go to flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127 or order online at flipupglasses.com.
Hello, I'm Jessica Rivera with your latest news update. On Monday, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany responded to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's comment about police over the weekend.
So why is this uptick in crime happening? Well, let's think about it. Do we think this has to do with the fact that there's record unemployment in the United States right now? The fact that people are at a level of economic desperation that we have not seen since the Great Recession? Maybe this has to do with the fact that people aren't paying their rent and are scared to pay their rent. And so they go out and they need to feed their child and they don't have money. So you maybe have to, they're put in a position where they feel like they either need to shoplift some bread or go hungry that night.
Here's what McEnany had to say.
There were 28 shootings in New York, 600% increase from this time last year. You have Representative Ocasio-Cortez saying this is just because people are trying to get food with their families. That is preposterous. The reality is 63% of Americans in this country fear that criticism of our police departments will lead to no public safety in their streets. And 69% of Black Americans, this is a real issue when you call our police cancer, when you talk about dismantling them. And then this weekend in New York, you see a 1-year-old killed in his stroller. His name was DeVell Gardner Jr., and that 1-year-old will be in our prayers. Not only that, you see Officers Garza and Chavez. And to your question about how we should talk about the police and defund the police, a movement the president stands against, the 2 officers ambushed this weekend. One of them, Officer Chavez's daughter, wrote a very touching tribute online. She said, "Words cannot describe the pain I'm in, but I'm glad my dad is at peace. You are an amazing man, and anyone who ever came across you knew that. I'm going to miss you so much. You died doing what you love most. You died a hero." And those touching words were written by Savannah Chavez. And I know she received vile and outrageous comments online that were absolutely atrocious for a touching sentiment to her dad. I want Savannah to know your dad is a hero. His police department should never be defunded because most of our police officers are good, hardworking men and women and heroes, much like Savannah's dad.
And late Friday night, President Trump granted clemency to former associate Roger Stone. Days before Stone was to begin his prison sentence, President Trump made the decision to commute Stone's federal sentence. For a quick explanation, any sitting president has the authority to grant clemency to anyone they choose. The two ways a clemency takes place is by way of either a pardon or a commutation. To pardon someone is to forgive the crime they're convicted of, and to commute a sentence is to lower the penalty of that crime. In the Stone case, his crime has not been forgiven or erased, but he doesn't have to serve time in prison. Stone was federally convicted in November 2019 for witness tampering and lying to Congress. The federal charges stem from Robert Mueller's investigation of Russia's alleged election interference in 2016, which included supposed collusion between Russia and President Trump's election campaign. The investigation found no evidence of interference or collusion, so for now, Stone is a free man, but according to New York legislation passed last October, he can possibly be prosecuted again. And Friday, the president held a roundtable to address how his administration is fighting drug traffickers and cartels.
First of this year, I announced that the United States Armed Forces would begin a surge of military assets. Over the last 3 months, American service members, joined by partner nations, have patrolled regional waters from the Caribbean Sea to the East Pacific. We're taking the fight directly to the sinister criminal cartels, and we're showing them no mercy. Our message is clear. You will not threaten our citizens, you will not poison our children, and you will not infiltrate our borders. On behalf of millions of American moms and dads, I want to express our country's pride and gratitude for your life-saving actions. As long as I am president, I will never allow your sacred mission to be undermined or attacked in any way. I will not have open borders. We will not abolish the police, and we will not slash the budgets for our military, and we will not allow our country to be swamped with deadly drugs. We will defend our country. We will defend our borders, our children, our heroes, and our great American flag.
And remember, you can now watch us on Dish Channel 219. We're also now on Pluto TV, Channel 247. And you can catch us on your phone, other devices, Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, and on our America's Voice News app. And that's going to do it for your latest news update. I'm Jessica Rivera, and you're watching America's Voice News.
America's Voice News brings you real news and real opinion in a real world. If you care about this country, then you can help by sharing America's Voice with your friends and family. We're here to bring you the truth with no agendas. America is one of the greatest countries of all time. We need a great leader to keep us on track and safe. If you support this president, then help us by being a beacon of hope and standing up for this great nation. Join us as we fight to bring you the truth in a crazy world. Search America's Voice News on all apps, Roku, Pluto TV, and Dish Network Channel 219. Please help by downloading America's Voice News to your phone, on your smart TV. Search America's Voice on all your internet-connected devices. Then share the truth with your friends and family. America's Voice News, the real news network. Join the America's Voice revolution and consider yourself an American patriot.
Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume.
Strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome to the War Room. It's Monday, July 13th, the year of our Lord 2020, broadcasting live from Capitol Hill. Raheem Kassam, Jack Maxey, Greg Manns on the John Fredericks Radio Network, America's Voice, Newsmax TV, and blown through the CCP's firewall by G News and GTV, subtitled in Mandarin. We're grateful to have you in the War Room with us today, on the YouTube live chat, on the Facebook live chats, on Twitter, on Parler. Hashtag War Room Pandemic is your way of getting involved with the show, both live and after the fact. We check through everything you guys are mentioning. One of the smartest, if not the smartest radio and television audience out there. I want to hand it over now to Stephen K. Bannon. Do we have Steve?
Yeah, you have that clip?
Steve, sorry, we lost you there right at the beginning. Is this you want to jump straight into the smoke out Biden clip?
If you got the Jesse Waters clip, yep.
Let's roll it.
I think if you want to smoke him out, it's not going to be rhetoric. You're going to smoke him out with action. Action on jobs, on EOs about jobs. The thing, Biden's line he tried to use on the president is that all you care about is the stock market and the investor class. That's the biggest chutzpah I've ever seen. It was Joe Biden and Barack Obama that in their administration we had the greatest concentration of wealth in world history, from the crash of 2008 until Donald Trump took the oath of office. Donald Trump's economy, although we had a robust stock market, Donald Trump's economy was a striver's economy. Remember, it's the first time the working class people's wages were increasing more than people with college degrees.
Back to you, Steve.
Look, one of the things we pride ourselves in is giving you tomorrow's news today. That's why so many hedge fund managers listen to the show, so many trading desks, political consultants, newsrooms, and of course we make this show for the deplorables, both the deplorables in the United States and Lao Beijing, old 100 names, in China and throughout the world. This show, what we're doing, we have people that drive action. It's going to take action to get us through this pandemic. It's going to take us action to get through this economic inferno, the financial crisis on top of that. So we're going to have people that know about action today. People like Brian Colfax from We Build the Wall. We've got Larry Elder. We've got Mike Cernovich. We've got a tremendous entrepreneur in the second hour. We're going to take you from London and what's happening with NATO, about China, to the streets of Hong Kong. But we're going to start on the southern border about our wall. I want to bring in a colleague, a friend, and a guy really I can say he's kind of a mentor, because he taught me really about how you actually have to build a wall. And this is Tommy Fisher from Fisher Industries. Tommy, thank you very much for joining us today on War Room Pandemic.
Great to be here, Steve.
Listen, people don't know, when we built the wall up the mountain in El Paso, Texas, you actually finished construction of what the Border Patrol has told us. They picked that area as it was an area that the Army Corps of Engineers was not going to go to. And Brian Colfax has done such a great job of kind of firing people up to support President Trump's border wall program, that this is something they passed on. And the Border Patrol said, hey, we really needed to stop the cartels. You essentially built it in a weekend. You came in on a Friday afternoon of Memorial Day. We had to do it kind of under the dark of night. We were working out our permits at the time, but I think by Tuesday morning, Wednesday, you had a completed wall, a half a mile, 3/4 mile up a side of a hill, I think a 35% slope. Then you built one down on the Rio Grande. Over the weekend, there was kind of a hit piece on you and one of the reporters down there saying that the wall you built actually on the river had some problems. Can you get us up to date? Because I look to you as a guy that really knows construction, knows what needs on the southern border. And in fact, I think you've got one of the biggest contracts down there right now. I don't know if it's in the Yuma territory in California somewhere. You're building it. So can you walk us through what this hit piece on your wall down on the Rio Grande and what the reality is?
Yeah, sure, Steve. So there were some articles written that there was major erosion to the wall, and the wall could potentially fall in the river, which was absolutely nonsense. As we built, of course, we built next to the river, and there are slopes that drain to the river that are 5 to 1 from the wall that we built. Basically, 2/3 of the soil, the grass took very well, and it grew fast. And during an 8-inch and a 5-inch rain event, basically there was no erosion on one side and minor erosion on the other, maybe about a foot deep in the sand where the grass didn't grow. So anyone who has any experience in construction will know that when you build construction or new construction, you have a landscape establishment period to get the grass to grow where it needs to grow. And as contractors, we have other remedies that we can do with riprap or additional concrete. So I was able to go out there 2 weeks ago, witness the wall and the road myself. There wasn't one part of concrete that looks like it's leaning. The road performed awesome. The border agent said it was one of the only places they could monitor the border during those large storm events. So we know that once the grass takes, it works, and it's proven, and we've sent that. So I would invite any of these engineers that so-called said that this is going to fall over. I'll meet them there next week. I'll meet them there in 2 years. I'll meet them there in 10 years. If you don't know what you're talking about, you really shouldn't probably start talking.
Let me ask you, why did you, I want you to walk through the logic and working with DHS, et cetera. Why did you end up actually, and we were the guys that helped you at the beginning, put some working capital in so you get going, but you built the rest of it out of your own pocket. Why did you pick to actually build on the river, which I think was obviously the most controversial versus I think it was a mile inland? I know that the landowners down there wanted it on the river because of the problems they were having with crossings. But walk me through your logic and who you talked to actually to construct it right on the river.
So not only did they meet with landowners, but also DHS officials, and they said this was one of the #1 trouble spots because it was actually from the tip where we built on the very bottom was almost 3 miles where the current government is attempting to build. And so it was causing real havoc for the agents. So I said, well, if it could be built there and Fisher likes the tough jobs, I said, I think we can design something that works. It's got to be a different type of footing. It's got to be a different type of makeup of the fence to a galvanized fence versus conventional steel because you're right next to the river. And so a lot of people said it couldn't be done. We modeled it. We proved that it could be done and built there. It is done. It's working unbelievably well. And there's a little bit of erosion maintenance that we have to maintain. But as we do that and we get the grass to grow, I believe in my heart, as well as every person in DHS, this is the only solution. You have to build a border wall on the border.
Let me ask you, since that time in the difference in the construction that you did there versus the more traditional walls, and I think you're building a more traditional one or type wall down in the territory you're in. I want to get into that. Tell me, what's the difference? What's the difference in what you built? Because from the very beginning, we had the butterfly people. We've had people down there criticizing this. They said you couldn't do it in the time, you couldn't do it at that price. What is literally the difference in the wall that you constructed and built there, for instance, versus the ones that you're building in California or the proposed one that's going to be built a little bit inland?
Well, the difference from what we're building in the other 3 states is our wall is 18 feet tall versus 30. We're built on a spread footing instead of a vertical footing, so we sort of match the soil type that we have in the Rio Grande, because not all geography or geology is the same. And then the biggest thing is because of the humidity there with the potential for rust and the heavy amounts of rain, is we concreted the road and used a galvanized coating on the steel itself to give a long lifespan. And then as compared to the difference of what they're building in the Rio Grande, they're basically building their border protection system on the current levee that separates the floodplain from the regular land where McAllen or Mission or any of the other towns are. And they're building sort of a concrete flood wall that also has a spread footing. And they basically encase bollards on top of their, per se, concrete. So, just because of the geology, that's why we chose there. And we used 26 years of my experience, along with probably a couple hundred years of our engineers' experience at Fisher Industries to come up with what we built.
Tommy, tell us what you're doing down in California. I know you're working with with President Trump's team down there in the DHS and the Army Corps of Engineers, all that. Walk the audience through what's happening. And I want to talk about how the wall is actually working to stop incursions, to stop cartels, and to stop, on a humanitarian basis, to make sure that people can't get across in these areas where there's desert and cartel guys that can prey on them. Well, walk us through the incursion rates, what's dropped since you built wall, and what are you actually doing in California now?
So there we're working hand in hand with the Army Corps and the President's team there. Everyone's doing a great job, putting up 30-foot fence, right on the border. As far as, how effective it is, I know that as the wall goes up, we don't see, really much traffic. We're building in some very, very tough areas, real mountainy areas between, Nogales and Sassabee. That was the bigger contract, very tough grading. But we sort of did the same grading like we did in the El Paso job with We Build the Wall. And I just believe it's a unified effort that the Corps is working hand in hand with the contractors to deliver for the President's promise and wanting to secure the border. So, we're just happy to have a commander-in-chief that supports that, and we're going to try to do what the government's direction is to us and build a high-quality product.
Last question. I got Brian's going to come on in a second, but I would just want to, for the audience, go back in time when you did the We Build the Wall in El Paso. You built it right up the side of a mountain, and you did it in 5 days. Walk people through quickly how you did that, how you accomplished it, and particularly I want to talk about the Border Patrol guys telling us how big an incursion area was, and then how much they love what you built afterwards.
Well, it was a big unified effort from multiple sides of the Fisher team as well as We Build the Wall to raise and put up the money to do something like that, and then working with the local landowners and Border Patrol. The hardest thing for Border Patrol is there was no access, and to go up slopes that were 40-50% in grades, maybe even 60 before the road was built at 31. They just couldn't stop multiple members coming in from different angles. And so once we built the road, there was a lot of smiles. They can get up to the top. They can protect that. But ultimately for George and Jeff, who, as an American citizen, just wanted their safety, it made me happy that they were very happy that their land was secured. And so that's what we're trying to do. So I'm a firm supporter of the President and his mission to secure the border, and I really believe that all countries should have secure borders that, define them as a country, nothing more than that.
Tommy, how do people get up to date? Do you update your website so they can find out what you're doing? How do people get more access? I know you've been on Fox, you come on here every now and again. How do people get more access to you, Tommy Fisher? Because if you want to know how to build a wall, I think you're the guy to ask.
Well, I'm so busy, just trying to deliver on the President's promise with the Corps of Engineers down here that, this is one of my only and rare appearance that we've made because we're working, 24/7 to do that. So my thing would be is I think as you research, the President's been down, they've been posting a lot of stuff there. But, my understanding is I think between all the contractors and with the Corps' help, I'm thinking that we're producing easily over a mile a day, and
gentlemen,
it's just
we have to break.
It's just an exciting time.
Gentlemen,
okay,
we have to
Tommy,
break.
thank you very much. Tommy Fisher, we'll go to a break. American patriot, great mentor, and a guy who knows how to build a wall. Raheem, back to you.
We'll be back with more War Room Pandemic with Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam, Stephen K. Bannon, Brian Kolfage, Mike Cernovich, Larry Elder, and a whole lot more after this break.
If you suffer from foot pain, ankle pain, knee pain, hip pain, even lower back pain, if just standing causes aches, soreness, and fatigue, the problem could be your feet. When your feet are out of alignment, your entire body is out of alignment and you're in pain. Now you can change all of that. Today, introducing Superthotics, the doctor-designed breakthrough that solves the problem in your feet and relieves the pain throughout your entire body. It begins with the cushioned BioLock heel cup that holds your heel and ankle in perfect alignment. Next, metatarsal and longitudinal arch supports distribute the pressure of your body weight evenly across the entire foot.
Plus, these customizable inserts, which correct the angle at which your foot hits the ground, relieving your pain with every step you take.
Imagine being able to dance, walk, work, play golf, or just spend an afternoon shopping without the aches, pains, stiffness, and poor balance that rob you of your active life.
As a flight attendant, I spend a lot of time on my feet. The moment I put the Superthotics in, I could feel a huge difference. The pain in my knees went away, the pain in my feet went away. Not only am I wearing them for work, I am wearing them all the time.
Imagine finally getting relief from painful problems like bunions, shin splints, corns, calluses, plantar fasciitis, and even stress fractures. Doctor-prescribed orthotics can cost $600 to $800, but you won't pay anywhere near that for Superthotics when you call the number on your screen or go to superthotics.com. For a limited time, you'll get the manufacturer's direct price of just $39.95. Call now, and we'll also include, at no extra cost, our soothing peppermint lotion to help invigorate your feet. You will also get our luxurious comfort slippers designed with durable memory foam. You receive it all. Superthotics are not available in any store. Call or go to superthotics.com now.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to the War Room for an action-packed show today. Greg Mans, Jack Maxey, and Raheem Kassam here on Capitol Hill. Over to Stephen K. Bannon.
Yeah, look, why are we starting at the southern border today? The reason is it always giving you tomorrow's news today. What's coming down the track is some sort of immigration executive order and some sort of dealing with DACA. And the word on the street in Washington, D.C., it may include amnesty. It may include some kind of quote-unquote pathway to citizenship. So the southern border is going to get to be another massive issue in this 2020 campaign and really for the direction of the country. We're going to get Mike Cernovich on here in a moment, a real fighter, a real warrior. But I want to bring in another warrior right now, Brian Kolfage. Brian was the founder of We Build the Wall. Brian, I just got a question to ask you. Since you've really been the guy that put his shoulder to the wheel on this thing for the last couple of years. Walk us through, I think it was December of 2018. What inspired you to start We Build the Wall, and why have you taken, 2 years out of your life to be the leader of this effort? Walk us through what was in your thinking, what did you want to do, and what do you think you've accomplished?
Well, it started over frustration with Democrats not giving President Trump what he wanted. And that was his wall. So I thought maybe I could have a small impact and raise money, billions of dollars to give to the president so he could build his wall. And it would be the United States citizens opening up their checkbook and giving the president their hard-earned money to build the wall. Well, as we learned, couldn't give the money to the president and have it earmarked to go towards the wall. But we did raise $25 million off of donations from American citizens who felt very important, felt Morse Fear was important, and they gave it to us to build the wall. And we took those funds, which weren't raised on ads or anything like that, and we used it and rolled it over into a nonprofit called We Build the Wall. And We Build the Wall represents the American people coming together to build the wall, and we use those funds to build border walls. It's something that simple. And with those funds, we were able to impact 2 different cities, El Paso and Mission, Texas. And those cities are reaping the benefits of the border wall. We've stopped millions of dollars worth of drugs from coming across from just plugging these small holes. And it's been so successful that the Department of Homeland Security has now given us a list of border wall projects where they want us to help plug little holes. And by little holes, I mean gaps that could be a half mile or a mile. And they know the importance of these little gaps because they're being taken advantage of by the cartels. And that's what we're going to keep doing. We don't play the political games and get involved in all the fighting. We're going to keep plugging these holes until our border security is taken care of, because it's something we've been promised for the last 30 years.
Yeah, I just want to go back over that. I mean, one of the things that was struck me about El Paso is that we asked kind of the Border Patrol guys down there things as the wall's being built in a broader context, because you got so much of the border that President Trump's trying to build the wall on in obviously in a limited amount of time and a very limited amount of money. Where are some of these really kind of, I call them not squirrely places, but very difficult to get to that kind of been passed over that are still cartel strike points. And that's really whether it's Mission, Texas on the actual river itself, or it's in El Paso up the wall. I think of the 20 or 30 projects we've gone through and analyzed and see, I think every one of them, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, they're all kind of what I call special forces things. They're tuck-ins, but they're tuck-ins in kind of very difficult places, and particularly they're ones used by the cartels really to come across. Is that not correct? And human trafficking and drug trafficking?
Yeah, that's correct. And the majority of these cartels, they don't want to truck through the desert as well. And, we're building wall way out in the middle of the desert, but, that's still vital. We need to close it off. But in these urban centers, in these urban areas where these little gaps are, they're fully being taken advantage of. And that's where all the drugs, or most of the drugs and, illegal activity is coming across. And it's being overlooked, but I think Border Patrol and Department of Homeland Security are now noticing it. And that's why they're shifting these little gaps to us, the bill, to help them seal them off.
Well, listen, I know people don't say it enough. I want to say thank you for our audience, and thank you for everybody I know that cares about the wall. Not just the wall, but the seminars, the conferences you guys have put down there. I've been very honored to be part of it. But the conferences, the content that came out of the conferences, all of that has just been enormous. One last thing I want to leave you with before I turn to Cernovich. There's all this talk about DACA, everything like that. In your mind, because you've been engaged in this, you've really turned your whole life over this for the last couple of years. If there's amnesty or a pathway to citizenship in any kind of executive order that the president signs this week, how do you think the deplorables? Because you're down there with the hardcore. I mean, you got Tancredo, you had Michelle Malkin, you've got Kobach, you've got the Numbers USA crowd. These are the people that are really focused on American citizenship and making sure we maximize advantage for African Americans, the Hispanic population, the rest of the country. What do you think will happen if there's actually a pathway to citizenship in the president's EO?
If the president does a pathway to citizenship without getting his border wall guaranteed to be built, that whole wall that we wanted, I think there's going to be a lot of trouble because, everything, this is what the Democrats want. They obviously want DACA, they want it, but they fought against him and not giving him his border wall. So I think it's wrong, and I hope he doesn't go that route without getting, something in return.
Do you think, could you trust, Brian? You've been down there so much. Do you think you can trust the Democrats, particularly a House led by Nancy Pelosi, who fought the president to the I mean, you wouldn't be in business if it hadn't been for the shutdown in December of 2018. That's how you got the whole idea. Are you going to sit there with a straight face and tell me if he can get the wall? Would you trust Nancy Pelosi on anything she said about the wall, except tearing it down?
Definitely not. No, I definitely wouldn't trust any of them after everything they've gone through. But we'll see what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen if he does that. It's not going to benefit us. It's not going to benefit the American people to go that route. And I don't want to speculate on too much because I don't know what's going to happen. But I just hope he does the right thing, and we'll see.
Kofod, you've gotten so good at this. I can't wait till we run you for office. You sound like a Republican looking running for Congress. You sound like a Republican running for Congress now. No, that's okay, brother. I know you're learning. Hey, one thing I'll guarantee you, Brian, and you're an American patriot. Nancy Pelosi, the first thing when she gets total power, if she has a Democrat president and a Democratic Senate, the first piece of wall she's going to tear down is that piece in El Paso, Texas. You watch, just in your memory. So I want to thank you for everything you've done. You're a fantastic guy. People I got to know you've dedicated your life to do this, and God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to turn now. We've had kind of murderers row here. Tommy Fisher, Brian Kolfage, two guys who know how to fight. Very honored to now have Mike Cernovich, guy I've been fortunate to know now for a number of years, and a real fighter, and a guy that doesn't pull back. Mike, I got a lot of stuff. Raheem and the team want to really, because I think you're probably the cutting edge of social media and technology and what I call the fourth industrial revolution, all of this about the merger of technology and media. But before we get to that, I got to ask you, because I know you're very vocal about this whole concept. The reason we started at the wall was obviously the controversy over the weekend on Tommy Fisher's, the wall we helped him with down on the Rio Grande, right on the banks of the river. But it's really about the reason we're doing this is all Washington's talking about a potential DACA bill. What do you think? I'm going to ask you the same question we asked Kolfage. If the president's executive order this week, or this immigration bill, whatever they're working on, if it has pathway to citizenship or some sort of amnesty in it,